I'll keep going. I need to be stopped.
I hope you realize that I'm using that as the intro to this episode.
Dude, I'll do the whole song if you want.
Okay. Welcome back, denizens of Outworld, to another episode of The Lost. I am Shad, he is Razor. And before we continue, I will do what I keep forgetting to do every other episode, which is to inform the audience that The Lost, the Nethercast, and all associated podcasts are brought to you by TestYourMight.com in partnership with thereof. And the letter K.
And the letter K.
Most episodes are in fact brought to you by the letter K. If that letter did not exist, I don't know that we as a franchise would exist here in the wonderful realm of Outworld.
The letter K, and hopefully soon the number 11.
It's a hard number to get to.
It really is.
Nah. I know guys who know guys, and they tell me things, and one of the things that they tell me is that it is happening. It's just gonna be a little while.
Yeah, that's fair. Tell you what, Jason Voorhees can't get to the number 11.
So today, we are here to talk about one particular Outworld prince. Half human, half dragon. Trained to fight. To conquer. To rule! The second best song next to Chinese Ninja Warrior on that fucking soundtrack.
Oh yes.
So, I don't actually think that, and I'm including Scorpion and Sub-Zero in this, when I think of MK and I think of a single image, there's nothing more iconic to me, apart from maybe the MK Dragon logo, than the side of a Shokan. Typically the side of Goro.
He is the one.
You know?
I mean, there are other Shokans, but they're defined by how similar to or different they are from Goro. Kintaro is Goro, but a tiger guy, and Shiva is Goro, but a chick.
Precisely. Although that said, I've actually never really thought that, in terms of his fighting style, that they capitalized on all that he should be doing as the martial arts champion of Outworld.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about his moves more in depth as we go, but I've always kind of felt like Goro gets this weird short end of the stick where he's stealing moves from the other two as the games go on.
Yeah,
which means he has less of his own.
It's like they developed the concept of what a Shokan could do over time, but they kind of reverse imported all of that back to him.
Yeah.
And it always kind of bugged me. Like, for the most part, the way he fought in MK10 was kind of the way I imagine that Kintaro would if he were fully fleshed out.
They gave Goro a variation called Tigrar Fury, where he's literally imitating another members of the Shokan race. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of racist. if the Shokan were real, it would be racist.
You can't use that word. Only we can use that word. Sup on my Tigrars. Alright. I actually fought Goro after I first fought Kintaro. I'll get into that more when we have the Kintaro retrospective, but it was a bit of a letdown coming after the fury of the Tigrar.
Yeah, Kintaro, like, in the 2D era, Kintaro was easily the more intimidating of the two.
Oh yeah, impressive as all hell.
He was a harder fight.
He was.
In the arcades.
But there was something about Goro's idle animation which is absolutely horrifying. The first time you look at it, you go, oh shit. Because they really did a good job of like making those arms spin around and look like they were about to rip you to shreds. It was nice.
Yeah.
In MK1.
There's there is a charm to the claymation puppet and the proportions of its body, which is silly and it's definitely tapping into that, like, Harryhausen stuff looks silly.
Yeah.
But it also, I don't know, it has, like, a personality to it that I don't know if I don't really feel that from him now that he's more...
Lumbering?
Well, I guess. Like, the better proportion models. Like, there's something, like, especially, like, his facial features. Like, he looks more real now, but I kind of miss that, like, really thick brow and the, like, I don't know, the almost dopey expression on his face.
I do feel that at some point they kind of brought the half-human part to the fore a little bit more than the half-dragon parts. Apart from the scales on his back, can you really say he's got draconian
it varies
features?
from game to game, but, I mean, X is very inspired by the 95 movies puppet.
Oh yes, we're gonna have a whole segment on that fucking puppet, tell you what. Still looks good to this day. I don't care what anyone says. I love how it looks. It's got that, like,
I love it.
that magical Jim Henson timelessness behind it.
Yeah, it's, people always say that practical effects are better than CGI, and is a good example of a case where you can see it. Like...
Yeah, completely. So, I guess we'll start back at MK1. Now, we've already covered his,
I mean, going back to the origins of the character, and we always talk about sort of where the creators got the idea, and it's interesting to me to look at, like, Tobias's preliminary sketches and his, like, concept art, because originally what the game was going to have was, like, just a regular two-armed, like, a humanish guy who was very big and dressed the same as Goro, who was, like, this wild man from the mountain named Rokuro.
A thong and thigh wraps. That's all he had.
Yeah, and eventually that evolved into something more monstrous and supernatural and interesting. And, like, in terms of inspirations from, like, kung fu movies and stuff, there's obviously, like, the sort of the wild man from the mountains archetype is kind of like a common trope in martial arts stuff, I think. But more than that, like...
Here and there, like the guy that just lives up there and doesn't really contact anyone, but...
Yeah, it's just whenever you need, like a barbarian character, like somebody who's really strong and maybe not so smart. I think a bigger influence was Bolo Young, who is this actor from the 80s who played a very large sub-boss type character in both the movies Enter the Dragon and Bloodsport.
Right.
And I think, like, the decision to make him more supernatural comes from there's, like, this Bigfootish monster in Big Trouble in Little China who at parts in the movie sort of chases Jack Burton around.
Would you believe I've still never seen that movie all the way through?
You let me down, man. You're letting us all down.
I've seen Enter the Dragon like 180 times, but can't expect to see everything. Give me a break.
It's John Carpenter.
I'll get on it.
What do you need?
I'll get on it, I swear. And yes, I've even seen Bloodsport. I said all the way through. I tried to watch it once, and I was just really drunk and tired that night. All I remember was the Raiden-looking dude.
Well, you need some culture in your life, son.
Oh, I could have such a conversation about culture, but let's not for the benefit of our listeners.
But no, Goro, I always think of him as, like, the Bolo Young of MK.
Well, yeah, he's the big obstacle, the sub-boss, the guy in the way before the main guy. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about Goro, is there's sort of a natural tendency to assume that, like, the big, strong monster character is dumb.
And most of the time, when we get to see him, he does subvert that completely.
There's this whole, like, sense of honor thing, which reminds me a lot of, like, the Klingons in Star Trek The Next Generation.
You know, that is probably my biggest problem with MKX's story mode, is the fact that he's around and he's not in it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really care much for Goro until MK4 rolled around, or MK Gold, and he got that ending with Kung Lao.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
That was his benchmark. This is what my character is. This is what I'm made of moment.
Yeah, it's a face turn, and that's what makes him interesting.
Exactly.
Is that, like, he's not just a bad guy. The things he does, he's not, like, cruel. He doesn't enjoy being a member of Shao Kahn's army. He does it to protect his own people.
Right.
And if there's an alternative, like, he always wants to do, like, the honorable thing. The thing that, like, says, no, I actually, like, I stand for something.
And they continued bringing that to the Four and Deadly Alliance, when you began to see the full results of that face turn, when he's fighting alongside Kitana.
Right, and then they dropped the ball so hard in Deception, I think his character may have been ruined forever. Like, maybe not forever, but it still hasn't quite recovered.
From what MKX showed us in Versus Screen dialogue, he's got things like Liu Kang coming up to him and saying, "You won with Shang Tsung's magic." And he goes, "That is a lie!" So, they haven't forgotten.
He still has, like, a sense of honor. But, like, and this goes for Shiva 2 and MK9, what their definition of honor has been twisted into something more bad guy fitting, which is not really cool to me.
I mean, Shiva, I guess I can buy it, but Goro, next to Cabal in that same game, there's no better example, I think, of character assassination. And I'm not talking bad writing like Raiden MK9. I'm talking just people behaving the way that they are for no other reason that the plot demands it.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding of why those characters are popular when it comes to what Deception did with both Cabal and Goro. And I want to get back to that later, because I want to sort of go back to the beginning again and sort of take it one game at a time.
Yes, we have trouble doing that.
We do. But, like, because the cool thing, like, with Goro, that they did in the original timeline, when they dropped him off the map, when he didn't come back for the next game, and then the game after that, like, they actually stuck to their guns for long enough that when he did come back in 4, it meant something.
Yes.
And they don't really have the patience to do that anymore, it seems like. Okay, so let's go through the actual like backstory. Goro is
the 2,000-year-old champion of Outworld.
Yes, he's
son of King Gorbak.
And for the past 500 of those years, he has been the undefeated title holder in the MK tournament.
He should, by all rights, be one of the absolute most dangerous characters that you'll ever face.
And one of the things they describe him as is Shang Tsung's pupil.
I think that was quietly dropped. Once they started developing the characters a little bit more.
Okay, so Goro has this move in MK1, and it came back in 9 and X, but it wasn't in, like, 4 or the 3D era, where he throws a punch, and a projectile of, like, a glowing green version of his fist shoots out.
Yes. I always rather like that.
Yeah, that is like a magical effect, and it's different from, like, the fire breathing they give him in a lot of the games. And I always felt like that was the magic Shang taught him.
Good angle. I never actually considered it with that much depth and ardor. See, I just kind of figured that it was, like, similar to the Hadouken, that he was capable of channeling energy into his fist, and that, like the old Hadoukens in Street Fighter 2, you could see the afterglow of their hands in the shape of chi.
Like, even shooting a fireball made of chi is something you have to be trained to do. Like, that is not a mutant power. It's a technique you learn from a master. So even then, even if it's like chi rather than sorcery, it's the same thing. It's probably something you could say that Shang Tsung taught him how to do.
You could, I suppose. I'm neither for or against it, but it's just an angle that I haven't really considered.
Yeah, if you go back into the history, we don't really know in canon how Shang and Goro met in the first place. We have sort of a headcanon idea that comes from some adaptation material, but they've never really ratified it for sure.
Yeah, because in the MK1 comic, when everyone's introduced, he's already on the island.
Yeah. So here's the the order of events is that Shang Tsung was the champion of the tournament, the in the Earthrealm versus Outworld tournaments, he was a champion himself for 9 in a row. And at his 10th, he was beaten by the great Kung Lao.
Mm-hmm.
And so 50 years later at the next tournament, he comes back as a referee, basically. And he says, well, I'm old now. I'm not going to fight anymore.
Yeah.
So the guy who's going to challenge you, great Kung Lao, is my boy here, Goro. And we don't really know, where he found this guy. I mean, obviously, they met in Outworld. But we don't really have, the specifics. But in the Threshold stuff, and I think the first mention is the animated The Journey Begins, is this idea that when Shang lost to Great Kung Lao and he came back to Outworld a failure, Shao Kahn punished him by forcing him to, he put him in this prison called the Cobalt Mines of Shokan, and basically made him do slave labor for 50 years. And because these mines are in the Shokan territory, and the Shokan are the guards of the mines and everything, that period is where he met Goro. And he's like, hey, how would you like honor and glory in tournament battle? You want to come back with me?
I think the way that I've always visualized it is, again, largely due to the Jeff Rovin novel, where Shao Kahn basically said, you screwed up, I can't trust you anymore. This is Goro, he's the champion, and da-da-da-da-da. So I'm assigning him to you to fix your mistakes. And he's going to take Kung Lao, and you're just going to watch. That's the way that I think that my headcanon has gone for some time, but I do like the angle you're going for here.
So the reason I like the mines is because it sort of explains some things about Shang himself, namely why he's old. Because if the guy is running free, there's nothing stopping him from stealing a soul every couple months and just staying as young as he wants to be. But if you throw him in a prison, then he doesn't really have the opportunity, and that explains why he actually aged.
Wasn't there a panel showing Shao Kahn punishing him by, stealing his strength, or am I just remembering him coming back to his youth in the opposite direction?
Yeah, I think that might be what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I just like the idea that sort of Shang came up with the idea of bringing in a ringer all on his own.
It does credit to Shang's character.
I don't know how much, fame and glory, other than being the prince, Goro had before he started winning MK tournaments, because...
Well, he had 7 wives. He was doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be the prince thing,
Possible.
Comes with being royalty. But I think, obviously Goro is inherently much taller and stronger and more powerful than any human being. It's a wonder why they weren't using monsters in the tournament already.
I chalked that up to plot holes in early days.
It's fine.
Not everything needs questioning. I'm alright with it. Actually, you can look at it like this. Why would the Shokan go and fight for the Emperor? They've got their own concern.
I mean, the Shokan have a sweetheart deal with Khan, where of all the races that live in Outworld, they're his favorite. And it's mostly because Goro has won 9 tournaments.
But prior to that, I'm saying, Shao Kahn is not a guy I'd put a lot of faith in or trust in. So,
no.
I could see the Shokan not necessarily wanting to go to bat for him unless there was a really good reason for it.
Well, I mean, one of the things we know from the lore is that, Shao Kahn loves to instigate this petty bullshit between the races in his realm. He encourages the Shokan and the Centaurs to always be at war with each other. The constant conflict makes sure that, you're running people through the grinder, they're gonna come out either dead or the best warriors.
And I'd like to think that the Shokan know this.
They definitely know it by MK3.
Yes.
But it feels like, at least at the point of MK1, they are enjoying it because because Khan gives them all the best stuff and sort of gives them advantages in this. Like, they have the most territory, and the centaurs are the ones who are being shit on. And then, like, fortunes reverse after Goro loses, but not until then.
You can definitely see that they're his babies by MK2, the comic, where King Gorbak is so incensed and pissed off that Goro is apparently dead that he gives them Kintaro. So this is the other best guy that we've got left to us. You know, we trust you with him. He'll help you out.
I think the reason that I'm thinking about, like, well, what was Goro's career looking like before he met Shang Tsung, and how much of where he is, his position on the totem pole, is thanks to him being the champion of the tournament, is because at the time of MK1, Goro isn't just the champion, he's also the general of Outworld's armies.
Definitely doing well for himself.
Yeah. This is interesting because there are a couple characters throughout the history of the games who are referred to as the general, but there's always only one at a time. So, like, it's not just a general rank. Like, in the American military, we have a bunch of guys who hold the rank of general. And they're all, like, top brass, but they sort of share it. No, if you're the general of Outworld, you are, like, the #1 guy. The ranks go Shao Kahn, the general, and then everybody else.
And it's a position which changes hands fairly frequently.
Yeah, because people keep dying.
Or fucking up.
Like, Goro disappears at the end of MK1, so Khan needs a new general, so he's like, Kintaro, maybe? You better look good at this next tournament, buddy. And then Kintaro fails, and he's like, alright, that was 2 in a row, fuck the Shokan, Motaro's the general now. And then Shiva kills Motaro, and she has to die for being a traitor, so he's like, alright, Kano, you're the general now. But before all of them was Reiko, and Reiko's, like, entire story revolves around the fact that he was the best general ever, like, he's a strategy genius, but he died off-screen somewhere before the games, and so in MK4, he's down in Hell, and he's the general of Hell. Because, like, if the best general ever dies and goes to Hell, why wouldn't Hell make him their general?
That's more food for the Reiko perspective.
Sure. But I want to establish that there's, like, this order of who was the general when and what that means.
Yes.
And so, like, Goro was definitely holding this sweetheart spot, and I think he was made the general after he started winning the tournaments. Like, we don't actually know when Reiko died and Goro replaced him, we just know that it happened sometime before MK1.
Reiko's history is a very, very spotty affair.
Yeah, and it's funny because in the new timeline, Reiko never died. And I don't know who the general was when, except for it was Motaro and then Sindel.
No idea.
Because, like, Goro also never disappeared, and that's a problem. Because, like I was talking about, after Liu Kang beats Goro in the tournament,
he goes underground. He goes missing.
Yeah, there is this moment where, as Shang Tsung, after he loses to Liu, like, throws a tantrum, makes an earthquake on the island, it's collapsing into the sea, and everybody has to escape. And Goro is not escaping. He's taking this opportunity to work out his frustration on whoever the nearest people he can beat up are, which happens to be Johnny, Sonya, and Kano.
This is from the MK2 comic again. They were fighting on the pit while the whole
right,
line's going to shit.
But Tobias wrote it, so this was canon until the reboot.
Yeah.
So they're fighting on the pit, and the earthquake causes the pit to collapse. And Sonya, Kano, and Goro all fall in. And Johnny almost falls in, but Raiden happens to come by and catch him. And so Johnny sees them all fall in, and he thinks they're dead, because it's the pit. There's spikes down there, right? But the thing about Shang's Island is because it's halfway between Earth and Outworld, the fact that it's collapsing means they're being sucked back into Outworld, so they don't really land on the spikes. They get teleported to the Living Forest. And according to the MK2 comic, the Living Forest is next to Shokan territory. And the Shokan have been expecting Goro to come home after the tournament, and he's never come home, so they went out looking for him. And they never found him, but they did find Sonya and Kano, and they captured them, and that's how Sonya and Kano end up chained up in the arena. And so the Shokan are assuming that Goro is dead, that he died when the island collapsed, and they blame Shang, and King Gorbak wants Shang to be executed, but he comes up with the idea for MK2, so Kun is like, fine, you get to live. Suck it up, Gorbak.
Now, you bring up an interesting point. He disappears with them, but they find Sonya and Kano. They don't find Goro. You think that maybe his sense of honor, such as it is, had him look at his defeat and shame, see them coming, and go, I can't face my people like this, and fuck off into the night.
I think that's exactly what happened. I think it's explicitly said that he is so ashamed that he lost that he can't go back and face his people, so he goes into hiding.
There you go.
And everybody thinks Goro is dead, and he's not in MK2, and he's technically in the PlayStation version of Trilogy, but like I've said before, the PlayStation version is the one that's not canon.
See, I have to disagree with that. By that, I mean, it gave us Chameleon the Male, who is technically a thing that exists.
Technically, he's a thing that exists, yes.
I look at MK Trilogy in the whole as being canon. Kintaro could or could not be around. Goro is there for purposes of selectability. I don't believe he was actually running around during the invasion. He was off in a cave somewhere.
I mean, the thing about Ultimate and Trilogy is that they also have classic Sub-Zero in, and that character is definitely not canon. So it's not a stretch to say Goro is not canon either.
No, I don't think that he's canon in Trilogy, but...
He's just there for completion's sake, yeah.
As far as Trilogy goes, he's in a cave somewhere with a cast around two of his arms. Or he's, like, flexing or whatever, or working out or getting back in shape.
Yeah. He's, like, doing the Rocky IV wilderness workout.
Pretty much. He's probably watching things go on, and by this time I'm actually guessing that word of Motaro coming to the general position and the superiority of the Centaur race has come to his attention, much as it soon will to Shiva. So, that might be another reason that we don't see him, I think.
I think, so, what the canon story is that he does not come out of hiding until MK4. And what his in-game bio says is that the reason he comes out
is to beat Liu Kang.
Because he's finally ready to, like, go looking for Liu Kang and get a rematch. But the MK4 comic book, which, whether or not it's canon is fuzzy, does it slightly different. In that, it shows, like, Kitana is going to the Shokans and the Centaurs trying to get them to sign a peace treaty with each other, which is canon in MK4.
Yep.
And the Shokan and the Centaurs refuse, and it's about to come to a fight, and that's when Goro, like, shows up out of nowhere, and both sides, like, actually respect him so much that him showing up and endorsing it is what gets them to sign.
That should be canon.
I like that, because I like the idea that even to the Centaurs, Goro is, like...
His reputation should precede him, you know?
Yeah, he's like an honorable leader. Like, they're willing to treat with that guy because they know they can trust him, even though he's a Shokan.
Should also mention briefly that the MK4 Goro bio calls him Shang's protector. So I think that that's the example right there of the soft retcon of the pupil line.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase pupil is sort of a weird... Like, you read that and you wonder what it means immediately. It's not clear. It doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, what is he teaching him? I think what it means in this sense is, like, if you're an old man, you go to a tournament, and you're entering, like, your student in the tournament, and he's like, this guy represents my dojo, he fights on my behalf. That's like, tournament culture.
Right.
So, like, because Goro is fighting for Shang Tsung, that's sort of the position. So Goro apparently comes out of hiding because he wants a rematch with Liu, and it doesn't seem like he actually gets it. Like, the Shokan Centaur peace treaty thing becomes more important to him.
To be real about it, a lot of the aim of MK4 was to reestablish MK's reputation after MK3 got kind of corny and silly. And I don't think that they had a plan for a sub-boss. Like, I don't even know if Goro was in the original versions of MK4.
The original arcade release didn't have Goro in it. I think he may have been console exclusive.
Anyway, I think that including him, having him be the first returning sub-boss was definitely kind of the angle to refocus the brand.
Yeah, they were trying to like remind people like who were sort of turned off by the urban stuff in MK3 and all the robots and like the modernists.
It was a back to its roots maneuver.
Yeah, because like they also brought back the fact that Scorpion and Sub-Zero were enemies in that game. Yeah, it wasn't a great idea, but they were definitely trying to like recapture the nostalgia for the earlier games. And that's the real reason they brought Goro back. But like the most important thing about Goro being in MK4 is Kung Lao's MK Gold ending.
The moment where we started to really see what he was made out of.
Because at this point in time, Kung Lao had never actually had a fight with Goro. Like, it was always sort of a background part of his character that he's like, this is the guy who killed my ancestor. I'd kind of like to get him back for that. And you're always like, well, the cliche thing would be for those two to fight to the death, right? But MK4 takes it a different way, where because Kung Lao has become a pacifist at this point, and because we're now trying to push Goro as an honorable good guy, what happens is Kung Lao just kind of slashes him on the chest and like gives him a scar, and he's like, that was a ceremonial mark. It represents that we've settled our differences now. I can let it go. And then they shake hands, and they're like, okay, peace between us.
And Goro goes out of his way to compliment his ancestor on his fighting prowess and his ability. He says something to the effect of him being a great man and a great warrior, and, you know, wishing people were more like him, from what I recall.
Something like that, yeah. And it's very, it just adds to both characters.
It's probably, I think, the best MK4 ending, I think.
I would agree with that, yeah.
It was definitely used as a stepping stone going forward.
Yeah, because Goro's, if you want to call it like an arc of development there, definitely goes straight into Deadly Alliance. And it's one of the few characters that does feel like a straight line from MK4 to Deadly Alliance, because, like, there's not a lot of stuff from MK4 mentioned in MKDA, which is a little weird. Like, they talk more about MK3 and how that ended and where the characters have been since then, and they very little mention Shinnok and that stuff. Like, it comes up in Quan Chi's bio because it has to.
Probably because Shinnok was kind of his own beast and exactly go over all that well among the fan base for many, many, many years.
They were mostly doing it just to, like, not mention the MK4 roster, because it's like, where is Reiko? Nobody cares. Yeah. Where is Jarek? Nobody cares. Where is Kai? Nobody cares. And more importantly, like, where is Fujin? They'd never mention Fujin in Deadly Alliance, even though he's currently supposed to be the protector god of Earthrealm. They just go, nah, Raiden's back.
If you know where Fujin is, call us. Call us now. Tell us where Fujin is. We'd really like to know.
Yeah, like, not only is Raiden back, but Raiden got his staff back from Kai. He's like, here, I'm giving you a gift. 2 days later, I want it back. Come on, you're ruining it. You're making me look bad.
You can go do that kind of thing on your own time. Give my shit back.
Go, wander the earth, search for your soul. Maybe it's over there. I don't care. Just give me my stick.
Before we move on to Deadly Alliance, I would like to say that in terms of fighting ability and playability, MK4 was bizarrely, for me at least, the point where I think that Goro played most closely to his ideal self in my eyes. Because he felt like, you know, like everyone else did.
I mean, he does have,
which is to say, he felt like a normal martial artist.
Gave him Kintaro's fire breath projectile instead of, like,
there is that. Fist. And he also had Kintaro's stomp. Well, that was when he started ripping off the Kintaro stomp.
Goro had a leap in MK1, but it wasn't completely off screen and down on top of you like it has been since.
Yeah, bloody thief. I just mean in terms of playing more like a normal martial artist than a slow chugging guy.
Like
that's what I liked.
Goro was animated. I think he just reused the same motions as everybody else, except that he was really tall. So he felt like very nimble in MK4, and I actually kind of liked it.
wanted to bring attention to that because it's an ongoing concern of mine. When will Goro feel like a champion martial artist and not a lumbering brute, like Kentaro should feel?
Yeah.
So going into Deadly Alliance / Tournament Edition.
There's an interesting thing going on about this Goro story from MK4 to Deadly Alliance, because in MK4, Edenia and Outworld weren't really separated. Like, MK4 treats it as though Shao Kahn has died, and Sindel and Kitana are ruling from his throne, and they're just calling Outworld Edenia now. So, when Kitana is making peace treaties between two Outworld races, it makes sense, because they're her subjects. But Deadly Alliance retcons it so that, no, Outworld and Edenia have separated, and the reason Kitana is making these treaties is because she's making alliances. She wants the Shokan and Centaurs to join her in going after Shao Kahn.
Now, to be fair, I always thought that the MK4 portion, the way it dealt with the merging or the unmerging of Edenia and Outworld, was kind of spun.
Yeah.
They did specify back in MK3, I think it was Liu Kang's ending. In freeing Earthrealm, he also frees Edenia, or something along
but we
the
don't
lines
know
of that.
what those words mean. They could mean Shao Kahn is dead, which means Outworld / Edenia is free because he's gone.
It's spun.
It is. It's unclear, which makes it easier to retcon, I suppose.
Well, the end result is that they are separate by
Yes.
Deadly Alliance, so moving forward.
Right, so Deadly Alliance establishes that the two realms have been separated. Shao Kahn is ruling Outworld, and Sindel and Kitana are ruling Edenia. But Kitana has come to Outworld and made treaties with Goro so that the two of them can overthrow Shao Kahn.
And I really appreciated that they kept the heroic angle that they gave him.
Yeah.
This goes back to what I was saying before about him probably knowing around the time of MK3 that Shao Kahn was turned on.
Yeah, this is
it makes
like
perfect sense.
A natural evolution of what happened in MK3, where Shao Kahn stopped supporting the Shokan.
Yes, exactly. So, he would have no reason to continue being loyal to him. Period.
Yeah.
And neither would any of the Shokan, honestly. I could believe that Kentaro still would be, because I consider Kentaro to be a sadistic dick. But by this point, yeah, logically, the entirety of the Shokan race should be in rebellion openly against him.
And so what happens is, and I think this whole like turn of events was good for Kitana too, because I really like the idea of her going, I'm not gonna wait for him to attack us again, I'm going after him.
Yeah, she went on the offensive.
Yeah, that was really cool. So what happens is Kitana and Goro are actually really very successful in their whole war campaign against Outworld.
And they form a bond. Whatever their history is, they already clearly respect
they genuinely become close friends. And they march their army all the way up to the castle, and there's like a big final battle between Kitana and Goro's side and Shao Kahn's side, led by Kano. And it's kind of funny because I think we talked about this last episode, that Kano actually beats Kitana in a fight.
Yeah.
But the main reason I think he won that fight is Kitana was distracted, because over beside her, Goro was being stabbed to death by Noob Saibot.
See, I kind of like how that never came up again. And I like to think that Goro never knew who hit him.
Well, it's Noob Saibot. You don't really see him coming. He's like out of the shadows, knife in your back, and I'm gone. He is the most ninja of all the ninjas.
It adds that much more to Noob's / Bihan's backstory. And it just kind of goes to show that it really is not necessarily about skill or strength or who will win in a fight. People die in fights in stupid, pointless ways. Although, if I'm remembering right, he hits him from the back. He attacks Goro from behind.
It was explicitly a sneak attack, I'm pretty sure it says. But even so, like, what I like is the fact that Bihan low-key has, like, the best scorecard in all of Mortal Kombat. Because, like, when he was Sub-Zero, he was established to be, like, broke as fuck, and, like, hey, I just beat 4 gods, Quan Chi and Shinnok, in the same day.
when we get to the Beyond episode, we're going to have a lot of fun listing his various accomplishments.
Yeah, so he does all that, and then he also gets to be the guy who kills Goro, too.
God, I love Beyond so fucking much. It's not funny. Best character. Objectively best character. So yeah, that's it. Goro dies.
Well, the Deadly Alliance version is that he dies on the battlefield, and Kitana is like, oh shit! And while she's distracted by that, Kano sucker punches her, and her side has to go into retreat.
Noob Saibot and Kano win a war. Mother of fucking God.
And, like, I just love the idea that, like, the only reason any of this happened is because Shao Kahn is currently going through, like, his depression phase. Like, he's in a slump. He just sits in his chair and goes, just tell them I'm dead. I don't even want it today. Tell them I'm dead. Because if he actually showed up on the battlefield, it'd be like Sauron at the beginning of Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. Just people flying left and right. But still, he doesn't need to be there because he's got a couple of sneaky bastards wielding knives doing the dirty work
lucky
for him.
Kano and Noob actually got this.
It's hilarious. All the times he has an army of Shokan backing him up, an army of centaurs backing him up, keeps going down, keeps failing.
Right.
Two sneaky bastards with knives, shurikens, and presumably in Noob's case, a scythe.
I'd like to think so.
That's how I actually always envisioned it. I figured he was using his MK4 scythe to stab.
I would like to see him use
Who knows?
the goddamn scythe, because, like, that troll hammer shit was so stupid. Like, he's the Grim Reaper, give him a scythe!
But Trollhammer, Noob,
lol? Shut up, Ed. Just shut up. You go to sleep, old man.
Rest your eyebrows. Your tired eyebrows. So, he's given a full burial with military honors.
They actually go into,
they put him in a casket.
The Shokan customs for, like, royal funerals, and it's
really
Kitana
nice. Kitana
takes his body back to Kuatan, to the royal palace, and he's put in, like, was it a gold coffin?
It was a gold sarcophagus.
So they put him in a gold sarcophagus, and they lower him down into the lava. And that's apparently how Shokan burials are.
And that was the end of Goro in the original
Or at least
timeline.
It should have been.
And that was the end of Goro. God, it really should have been. But then
Deception came along.
Deception comes along. And then Unchained came along.
Well, it was the GameCube version of Deception. So the GameCube version of Deception added Goro and Shao Kahn to the roster. And then Unchained, which was the PlayStation Portable version, was that plus Kitana, Jax, Frost, and Blaze. So anyway, GameCube Deception, like, Vanilla Deception comes out, and it's fine. Everything is fine. I mean, there are some plot holes in Conquest mode. There's a Shujinko episode one day for that. But everything was fine. And then the GameCube version comes out, and they just fuck it up! Because Shao Kahn is supposed to be dead, and they go, no, he's not. And they're like, so before Quan Chi and Shang Tsung came in the room and ganked him, he made a clone of himself and ran out of the room.
This was the beginning of the end.
That is their actual explanation. That is what they wrote.
Using a powerful magical item retrieved long ago by my minions. Hey, look! Another amulet of whatever the fuck.
The magic wand of plot device.
I created a clone of myself to draw my enemy's attention while I escaped into the wilds.
Like, apparently he stripped naked and put his armor on the clone. Because it says in... What happens next is that... So Goro has been stabbed by Noob and he's bleeding out on the battlefield. And he's lying there and he's like, Shao Kahn came to me and I didn't recognize him at first because he wasn't wearing his armor. And he's like, hey, I'll save your life if you work for me again. And Goro, the honorable Goro, chooses to betray his people in this war because he's afraid to die.
Now, to be fair, he also says he will give the Shokan back their favorite status and banish the centaurs. But that still makes no fucking sense, because there's a peace treaty going on, and Goro should be trying to preserve that peace treaty.
Fucking...
It's just not
They just wanted Goro to be a bad guy again, so they fucking ruined his character.
Now, I would just like to elaborate a little bit on the mental image you've just placed into my head. It states that Shao Kahn escapes into the wilds. And because you said naked, I now have the mental image of Shao Kahn buck naked running into the living forest with like his MK3 laugh trailing behind him as he goes.
I think it was supposed to be that he was wearing his alternate costume, but his alternate costume looks just like his primary but with pants on.
Like, how do you not recognize this?
He's still wearing the skull helmet! It's slightly different on the sides.
There's different shoulder pads, but it's basically the exact same motif going on.
Who is the 7-foot guy wearing a skull mask? That's not Khan, is it? I'm not sure.
Oh, it's Reiko. What are you doing out here, buddy? You're a bit taller than usual.
Anyway, so Khan heals him, and apparently nobody notices this is going on because it's a big battle, even though Kitana was looking right over there and was totally, like, upset about it.
Just gonna bypass that.
Right, we'll just forget that for a moment.
Blind eye.
So Khan heals Goro, and then what they do is they take one of the generic Shokan soldiers who happens to have been mutilated in the face, so you can't recognize him, and they put Goro's clothes on him, which means Goro did strip naked. And then they escape into the wild. So Kitana, what she thought was a dead Goro, was actually somebody else. And they gave, like, the royal burial to some other guy.
God, it's dumb.
Meanwhile...
It's just really dumb.
Meanwhile, Shao Kahn and Goro are sitting in some camp, and they're like, okay, we're gonna wait till things blow over, and then, Goro, you're gonna go back to your people, and you're gonna tell them they work for me again. And they'll just be okay with this. And apparently they are! They're just okay with this! Because in Armageddon... the Shokan are working for Khan.
I don't remember that specifically, mostly because I try to banish most things about Armageddon from my mind. Did they show that in Conquest mode?
Well, Goro is definitely shown rallying troops and stuff, like from a balcony in Khan's palace when Taven runs into him and all that shit. What they specifically it was in, I think, Melina's bio when they finally released bios online. She explains all the stuff that's happened since she started posing as Kitana in Deception, how they took Shao Kahn's palace, and the Edenians were holding it. And then, all of a sudden, one day, Shao Kahn, Goro, and Shang Tsung march up, and they're like, I want my fucking palace back. And Melina, who is still pretending to be Kitana, immediately stabs some of her guys, drops to one knee, and is like, welcome home, daddy. Because this is after Raiden has blown up Shang, and what happens when Shang dies is that his soul goes straight back to Shao Kahn instead of the afterlife because he sold his soul to Khan. And Khan goes to the flesh pits and sticks it in a meat, and lets him steal some souls until he can grow skin back.
It's a really roundabout way to have to restore the status quo, I tell you what. Not that it matters at all.
It's so bad. Deception was a mistake.
No, it wasn't, and you know that.
GameCube Deception was a
horrible,
horrible mistake. Regular Deception was fine. Everything was fine.
Which Armageddon did very little to rectify. Now, do we know how he died in the Armageddon fight?
I don't think so.
I don't think he shows up as a corpse at all.
No, I don't remember seeing him, like, on the ground in that first cutscene of MK9.
No. But, that's the history of MK1 through original timeline Armageddon and Goro.
Yeah, it was great, and then they just stumbled right before the finish line.
And I'd love to say that the current timeline has done him favors, but it really
No, actually, like,
much.
MK9 is almost worse to me for Goro.
Somehow I'm not surprised, but elaborate.
Okay, so let's start with the fact that during the MK1 part, Goro literally does not show up in story mode until his fight with Liu Kang. Like, he's not there for the big speeches or, like, a banquet scene or anything. Like, he's just, Like, right before Liu fights Goro, Johnny Cage asks, "What's a Goro?" Nobody has told him who the title holder of the tournament is.
Now, actually, before we go further into this, we didn't really go over Goro's deception look.
Well, do we want to talk about, like, costumes and stuff?
There's not a lot to talk about, but I figure that this is worth talking about for one specific reason. And you know what that
Are we
reason
talking
is.
about the fact that he has 4 pectoral muscles?
Yes.
I like it.
Why? I would, if I thought it was executed right.
Here's my thing about
and I don't think it was.
Shokan anatomy. If you're trying to, like, design a monster, like, realistically, the pectoral muscles are important to how the arms move. And here's the thing is, like, Goro doesn't have 4 tits. Like, he only has 2 nipples. Like, only the upper pecs have nipples on them. And that's... I don't think a lot of people know this, but the amount of nipples on a mammal equates to, like, how many children they can have. Like, only animals that have litters have more than 2 nipples. And the Shokan don't have litters. So they wouldn't have 4 tits. Like, there's no reason to change Shiva's design. But having 4 muscles on the chest to move your arms does make sense.
I understand that it's anatomically correct, and I still think it looks like trash.
I mean, I've drawn both Goro and Kintaro with 4 pecs. Do you think it looks better than in the game? Like, is it just like they're proportioned weird in Deception? Like he has too much upper body?
There is that. The proportions of it specifically bother me. That's partially because the MK Deception models are kind of, well, the 3D era models are kind of bulky.
They're bulky, but they're also, like, I feel like when they made Goro and Kintaro's models, they just sort of took a human body and they stuck half of another human body on it. Like, they didn't actually model the torso from scratch.
Yeah, it looks kind of worm-like.
They're too, like, from the neck to the waist, they're too long. They look stretched out.
Yeah. I might not mind the pectoral muscles much if not for that fact.
Well, he also had the 4 pecs look in Shaolin Monks. Do you think it was pulled off better there?
I want to say yes, but I'm lying. At least not the render.
I mean, I tried to make it look a little... Like, I made the abs smaller to, like, make the torso more proportioned when I drew it. I feel like it's a thing that absolutely can work. You just have to, like, be careful how you do it.
It's a delicate balance. Like, I'm also looking at an MKX render right now as we speak, and it probably could benefit from a bit of pectoral definition. There's probably just a balance that they haven't really hit.
Yeah. Because I just think, like, I absolutely get where you're coming from, thinking that they looked weird in Deception and Armageddon, and I think that's just poor modeling. I don't think the idea is inherently bad.
Anyway, I just felt that was a topic worthy of discussion, because we complain about it all the time. Whenever it's brought up, you know, there's consternation.
I get that. But yeah, so, like, going back to what I was saying about MK9, look, it's just really insulting to see Shiva first. Especially because Shiva doesn't actually do anything in the MK1 part. There's no real reason why she's there. It was just, like, a really poorly thought out use of roster resources to put her in that scene with Cyrax.
Now, one of the things that actually really bothered me about the MK9 depiction of MK1 was that they really didn't do Goro any credit.
Yeah, no, there's like I always imagine, and we see this in both the comic book and in the movie, is that Shang hypes Goro up. Like, even before you see him for the first time, Shang is always talking about the great champion who you'll have to face as your final challenge if you hope to win, and how badass he is and how nobody can beat him.
But because MK9 is a reboot, it goes in with the assumption that the audience already knows who Goro is, and doesn't take the time to build the ritual and build him up.
And, like, so... Again, just like the fact that Johnny hasn't even heard of the guy until it's already time for Liu to fight him. And then after Goro is beaten, they don't have the island collapse, and they don't have Goro fake his own death and go into hiding or anything like that. He just walks back to Shao Kahn's palace and reports for duty like nothing's wrong. And from that point on, in MK9, Goro is treated like he's written exactly the same way as Baraka is. He's just kind of a tall guy. There's the second insult is that there's a moment during MK2 where Liu Kang and Kung Lao are coming to rescue Kitana, and Goro is there to stop them, and Kung Lao fights Goro. And this timeline especially is going with like the Shaolin monks version of Kung Lao, who has always wanted to fight Goro and avenge his ancestor. But here the moment comes, and it doesn't even come up. Like, Kung Lao doesn't act as though he's fighting Goro, he acts as if he's just fighting another guy. It means nothing.
I too was expecting something to come of that, but nothing did. Honestly, it would have been best for everyone, considering what happened afterwards, if Goro had also killed him. If that's the angle that they wanted to take, to end with, like, someone dying.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that would have been a really good idea, because Kung Lao dies during that part of the game anyway. And the weird thing is, like, up to this point in MK9 story mode, Kung Lao has been established as the guy who's not as good and is, like, trying real hard but keeps getting beaten. So the moment that comes when he's finally like, it's you and me, Goro, I've been waiting my whole life for this moment, nobody's gonna stop me. And if you had, like, Liu in the background going, no, you're not ready, he's gonna ruin you, and then that actually happened? That would have been amazing!
But, next snap from behind.
Yeah. Just wasted.
MK9 story mode. How do we hate thee? Let us count the ways. They are numerous, they are manifold, they are many.
Dude, and Liu could have felt guilty about it too, because the only reason they were even there was to quote-unquote rescue his girlfriend.
No, sadly, MK9 did Goro no big favors.
And then, because he blames Raiden for Kung Lao's death anyway, he would have had just as much reason to, because, again, the only reason they went to rescue Kitana was because Raiden wouldn't do it. Fucking, I never even thought of that. That is such a missed opportunity.
The Lost will be right back after Razor goes, loses his shit, and returns. While we're here, I should also specify that I kind of really hate Goro's MK9 outfit.
Oh, it is so bad. It is so... And it's not just the outfit.
As with many, many outfits.
It's not just the outfit, it's the model. His face looks like a cartoon cat.
See, he kind of looks closer to the way that I think that an ideal Kintaro might look.
God,
he lost the definition in, like, his jawline.
Yeah, like, his mouth is weird and puffy, which would make, like...
His nose is too high up.
Yeah, he has, like, the pushed-up nose, and he has yellow slitted eyes, and all three of those traits are what Kintaro is supposed to have. So you're absolutely right. Like, that should have been Kintaro's face. But on Goro, it just looks weird and, like, wrong. And it's like an instinctual wrong. Like, you can't put together why it looks so bad without spending some time to think about it. It's just like, you look at it and you feel it.
And the spiked, like,
the shoulder pad.
gauntlets,
Why?
And the shin guard, and the Spider-Man loincloth. Everything about it is awful.
Mistakes were made, man.
Oh, Christ. What were they thinking? No, I think he actually looks like one of the worst out of all the characters.
Yeah, it's like such a needless design, because Goro's usual look, like, you can add detail to it and make it look fancier, but, like, the base concept, like, I should be able to squint my eyes when looking at an MK9 character and see a blurry version of what they looked like in the old timeline. And you cannot do that with some of the characters. And those are the ones whose designs are bad. Like, Kitana with her belly sticking out, and the, like, baby blue, powder blue. And Goro with the shoulder pad. Like, why is that there? It makes him look like not MK1. That's the only thing it does.
I'm going to say this right now. I don't feel like Goro should be using weapons or armor of any kind.
Spiky shoulder pads.
Unless he's actually in a war.
Spiky shoulder pads is Super Kintaro's thing. Like, he called dibs on the spiky shoulder pads.
That's his fucking
Yeah, you can't
trademark.
just put that shit on Goro like he hasn't stolen enough already.
Swear to God, man, every good thing that Catman gets, Goro takes it away from him. And, like, I don't like the idea of Goro using weapons unless he's actually in a war. He shouldn't need to.
Like,
he's a walking weapon.
Like, in theory, there's maybe, like, a cutscene animation that would look rad, that, like, if Goro was surrounded with troops on a battlefield, and he had, like, a sword in one hand, an axe in the other, a flail in one hand, and, you know, just each one is a different weapon, and he's just swinging at everything. You could do a moment of that, but not a gameplay element of that.
And I don't mind, like, the Tigrar knives or those little weapons.
Like, that's the other thing. Like, they never give him a real weapon. They give him spiked gauntlets, which is the most, like...
Because, you know, forearms, har. And I don't mind those, but they never struck me as a Goro weapon.
It's not a weapon. He's still punching. There's just a spike on his punch. Spiked gauntlets are the most, like, coward's way out of giving someone a weapon I can imagine. Because you're not really committing to animating them swinging a weapon. It's punching.
I'll say this much for the MK9 design, although it might have been a thing prior to this. I do like that the belt buckle has the Shokan sigil on it.
I like it, but I would rather,
cute little detail.
That, like, the Shokan logo, where it's like a forearm stick figure man. I like that logo, but I would rather that logo be on, like, an alternate costume. Like, I prefer I don't want to say the yin-yang, because I like it better when they make it look slightly different from a yin-yang. Like, in the movie, it doesn't have dots, it has red slashes. And in MKX, it's like, he has a belt buckle that's round and has, like, a white shape wrapped with a black shape. But it's supposed to be like an angel and a demon wrestling each other, or something like that. Like, it's the concept of a yin-yang, but it's not an actual yin-yang. And it looks, like, fancy and artsy. I like that.
Alright, that's fair. Must confess, I hadn't actually noticed.
Yeah, like, there's a thing in MK9 where, none of the Shokan wear a yin-yang. They all have the stick figure logo instead. And the only times you ever see a yin-yang associated with the Shokan in MK9 is, in Shiva's arcade ending, they drew her with the yin-yang belt buckle instead of the one she has in-game. And in story mode, there's a part at the beginning of the MK2 tournament where there's, like, this... Like, before Jax and Raiden and them walk in to start the tournament, there's some kind of weird ceremony where Goro is handing a yin-yang shaped jewel, like an amulet sort of thing, to Shao Kahn, and Kahn inspects it and hands it back. And it's like, I don't know what that scene means, like if it's the Shokan giving the king their yearly tribute or something like that, like it's just we have to pay our dues, or if, like, maybe this is his apology for losing the tournament is to give Kahn a gem. Like, to buy him off.
Don't like it. Take it back.
Yeah. But yeah, like, none of them actually wore the yin-yang in 9, and I thought that was a weird choice. Because they're so iconically associated with it in all the previous games. Like, the yin-yang is on the Shokan flag. Like, in the MK4 ending, and in the Shokan Palace stage in Deadly Alliance and Deception. There's a Shokan flag they design, and it's like green with a red stripe down the middle and the yin-yang in the center of the stripe.
I can think of actually no proper reason to dispose of it, but it is a Chinese philosophical
it is a symbol that belongs to Earth, and that's why I say I like it better when they make it look slightly not a yin-yang. But I still want, like, the
so they should have, like, their own variation on it. Maybe they just didn't want to step on anyone's toes in case of sensitivity. Oh, God, who knows?
That's weird. Because, like, I don't see them changing the Edenia Kamidogu. That's a yin-yang.
As it is. Odd choice. What was Goro's fatality in 9?
Oh, hell.
He's got one where he rips your head into 4 pieces, and he's got one where he just kind of takes your legs off and takes your arms off, and
then he, like, splits what's left of you down the middle.
But I figured this is a good place to seg into MKX, because he's probably got one of the best fatalities in that entire game.
I mean,
we're not going to forget the reaction we all had when we saw him for the first time.
He's pushing it in.
He pushed it in. Just something none of us ever saw coming, and shove right, inverting the neck. He gives them an opposite neck. Then he just rips off a flap of skin to see that their face is still there and shoves them over. It's just... It's messed up, but...
pretty brutal.
It's brutal. It speaks to the character's brute strength. And it's also kind of fun.
I actually really like both of his fatalities. Because the second one is he does the jump stomp, and then while he's standing on their back, and they're like face down on the ground, he reaches down and grabs like every arm and every leg with a different one of his hands, and then like pulls all their arms and legs off. And I think that's a cool one, because I think he had it in he had one in Deception, I'm pretty sure, where he would like just pick them up with an arm and a leg in each hand and just pull and like draw and quarter them. And I like both of those ideas. That's sort of like the best example of what a fatality would be for a four-armed guy, is draw and quartering.
When they first introduced Shiva, I don't know if I was all that down with like the skin rip or like the floor pound.
Yeah. Well, they have since, like, they keep reusing the floor pound for different characters. Jax has had it, Shao Kahn has had it. It's kind of very cartoony.
They just kind of wanted to feature her arms as windmill pile drivers, I guess. I don't know.
What I would like to see is a fatality that sort of uses the like his standard grab, the lifting them up at the waist and then punching in.
I was about to say exactly that. They don't make enough use of the fact that he should be pummeling someone into oblivion. Like, I think that he should actually be punching someone around the abdomen and chest and head and neck until they're a bloody, unrecognizable
Absolutely.
Plump. What is wrong with us as human beings?
This is what the series is about to a lot of people. We can't escape that either, you know. Fatalities are kind of part of the appeal.
We're not wrong, we're not sick, it's just this comes with the territory.
This is what Mortal Kombat is.
It's not about death, but life, remember that, folks.
I mean, it's kind of about both. It's about causing death to preserve life.
Yin and yang.
Absolutely, there you go.
We could discuss the MKX comic briefly.
Well, so, I mean, let's talk about the game's use of Goro story-wise, like what his bio says before we get to the comic, because they do contradict each other.
I suppose so.
So according to the game, the Shokan chose to take no sides in the civil war between Kotal and Mileena. As a result, when Kotal took the throne, he banished the Shokan.
Both angles which I actually quite understand.
My thoughts on the matter, though, are like, so wait, you're telling me there was a big fight for control of Outworld, and Goro decided to stay out of it? He could have been a third faction if he wanted to.
That's key, if he wanted to, but like I mentioned earlier,
unless he got beat up so many times in 9 that he's ashamed and he's pulling the like Shao Kahn after 3, just tell them I'm dead, I'm gonna sit in my chair, I don't feel like getting up today thing.
See, I don't consider the Shokan or Goro by extension to be, by and large, a people who have conquest on the brain.
Yeah, but they do romanticize battle. Like, they're very much like Vikings or the samurai.
They do.
Like, I feel like it's actually probably, like, they have definitely mentioned that part of their code of honor is that, like, dying in battle is the right way to die. Like, if you die in bed sick and old, you're probably going to hell, according to the Shokan religion.
But it doesn't mean that they have to be expansionists.
Well, no, but I just feel like refusing a fight doesn't make sense. Or, like, choosing to stay a neutral party.
That's fair. I just wouldn't see them as being a third faction.
The comic definitely, I think, makes more sense. I mean, it is a contradiction, but it is one of the rare instances where I think Kittleson actually improved on something. Because they do pick a side, and there is, like, a reason for Kotal to be against them.
Well, anything is better than the footnote that they were in MKX.
Right. Goro really isn't part of a story. He doesn't show up in story mode. He's just... It's very similar to how MK4 used him, in that, like, in 4, he had nothing to do with Shinnok, but he was the sub-boss of the arcade ladder, just because he's Goro. MKX also went, this game needs a sub-boss, here's Goro.
And yet they didn't use Veritor.
Yeah, no, you
Why?
would think, right?
When I first saw them, I figured that was their entire purpose.
I guess they're trying to break the mold and have big guys who don't have to be the sub-boss, and that's what Ferritor represents. Same as, like, Grundy and Gorilla Grodd in the Injustice games.
Which is nice, don't get me wrong, but it has been a hell of a long time since we had, like, a big sub-boss as an original character.
Yeah, they haven't
Moloch might have been
invented
the
a new
last one.
sub-boss since Moloch, and that was 2002.
Yeah, we're overdue.
Because Deception had the Noob Smoke tag team as the sub-boss, and Onaga, who was that game's big guy, was the main boss.
Yeah. That's one of the things that peripherally bugs me.
Yeah,
it feels like something's missing.
Weird. It feels like Deception doesn't have a sub-boss.
I mean, Noob Smoke was okay.
And it was, I guess, a creative idea. It just doesn't feel like a big fight.
Felt like an endurance round.
Yeah.
Miss my big sub-bosses. But yes, back to the MKX comic.
Right, so MKX, I think, actually uses Goro in some really cool ways. So, like, the start of it is basically just the revelation that, you know, Reiko is sort of the one behind Melina's side of the Civil War, the war machine for her. And he's making all the alliances, and he's maneuvering all the pieces. Because, let's be honest, Melina isn't really leadership material.
You think?
Especially not this timeline's Melina, who's only, like, 2 years old when the throne is stolen from her?
She, didn't have a lot of leadership experience on the old resume.
No, she's like 12 in the comic book.
I did like the fact that Reiko was her brains behind the throne. She needed that. Not to disparage Melina fans, but she's...
Right, so Reiko is basically like, to Goro, work with us and the show can get the sweetheart deal again. You know, this is, you know, what you had with Shao Kahn. This is good for you. In fact, it's even better because, like, Melina's a weak leader, so you'll probably have even more power under her than you had under Kahn.
Again, Kittleson saw a great potential character in Reiko, and he used him to his fullest.
Yeah.
Can't love him enough for that.
He really did a good job with Reiko. I'm not as happy with how he used Havoc, but I think the comic did Reiko very well.
It's a fair trade-off.
And I think the comic did the Shokan very well.
Oh, yes.
Because then you have Goro's big fight with Kotal Khan's father. And so Kotal has sent his father with these troops to go shut down Melina's forces. And he's given him Shao Kahn's hammer. And there is this great part in the fight where Goro is kicking Ketz's ass so bad that he's like, give me that fucking hammer, you're not worthy of this. And just knocks his fucking head off with it. And so this sets up, like, this really interesting Goro-Kotal rivalry that I wish the games were able to do something with. Like, I wish you could go back in time and retroactively put Kotal in MK9. Because I feel like there's a whole, like, world of rivalry between those two that we should be exploring. Because we also find out Goro was involved in the conquest of the Aztec realm. So, like, there is a history there.
The MK9 bioform actually also does specify that he's been part of a few conquests. So,
yeah. Yeah, and it totally makes sense. This is what Goro does. He wins MK tournaments, he helps Shao Kahn conquer realms. And I just like the idea of these two specifically together as rivals to each other. Because
it's not like anything's ever going to happen with the centaurs.
Yeah, and they're very similar characters. Like, Kotal also has this sense of honor thing. Like, he understands where Goro's people are coming from, I think. They're very similar cultures. Because when Kotal comes to avenge his father and fights Goro, he does that really, really sick thing where after he cuts off all 4 of Goro's arms, Goro's like, finish it, you got me, kill me. You know, give me the honorable warrior's death. And Kotal's like, no, that's what you want, buddy. I know how this works.
Fuck you.
You have to live with this shame. You're a cripple from now on. That's so much worse for you.
There is only one Kotal Khan, and that's the one that Sean wrote.
Absolutely. And so, like, Goro goes home without his arms, and the people are totally like he's expecting to be thrown out of the kingdom by his own father because he's now like being a cripple is inherently dishonorable. You can't fight anymore. You're useless as a person. But King Gorbak is just like, no man, you're my son. I still love you.
Which also kind of works for me.
Yeah.
That kind of conflict isn't unusual in fiction. Fuck the rules, you're family.
And he's like, what Kotal has done to you is an insult to us all. We're going to war. And then after Kotal kills King Gorbak, then the Shokan people are like, well, Goro's not fit to lead. You're out of the line, man. We're giving the throne to Shiva. My cousin wasn't even in the running. She's like a third branch of the family tree. Like, and he's like, well, there's nobody else. It's not going to be you.
Meanwhile, Kentaro's like, well, I'm over here. Shut up, freak! Goddamn underclass, know your place.
We're not going to give the throne to a goddamn stripey.
Razor, that's offensive. Stop that.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Fictional racism. You can't use that word. That's our word.
I wasn't gonna say it, but thank you. No, Okay, I've had too much wine. I'm having too much fun with this. So, we've established that Sean does a better job of writing Goro than Goro has been written since 2002.
Pretty much. And then there is,
how did that end?
Well, there's the one bummer about it, is that, like, so after Goro is basically kicked out of the kingdom in shame, and the throne is given to Shiva, because he's a cripple, he goes out, and he seeks out the Red Dragon clan, because apparently in Kittelson's continuity, Dagon has allied with Onaga, and apparently Onaga has the knowledge of, like, regenerating limbs, and can figure out how to grow back Goro's arms. And this is a cliffhanger the comic ends on, and the comic was canceled after that, so we never really got to the point where Goro has his arms in MKX.
I'm prepared to let it slide. I don't consider the MK comic to be real canon for the most part, but it sure did Goro a hell of a show, and more of a service than he got in the game.
I mean, I kind of, like, there are some things from the comic.
There are things about it I desperately wish were canon, and others that are best left forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about it is that, like, now that Kittleson actually works for NRS, I have hoping, a lot of like, hope, that Goro, Red Dragon Gang, Onaga connection is something that we see more of.
Into MKX now. And the first thing that comes when I think of Goro and MKX is just how much they paid attention to how much of a mark the movie had on the character.
Yes. And they definitely, like, I think a lot of it was, like, there are elements in X that feel like an unspoken apology for mistakes in 9.
Oh, completely.
Like, Sub-Zero's character design is a big example. Like, they didn't just walk back the cyborg thing. He's literally Deadly Alliance Sub-Zero, the most popular version.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for Goro, too. Like, the cat face with the yellow eyes is gone. He looks like movie Goro. He looks like the puppet from 1995, but with, like, red and black eyes.
And just specifying here, it is possible to give Goro more than, like, a loincloth and have him look good.
Yes, like, he's got this, patchwork war skirt leather armor thing that basically doesn't cover any more skin than his black sumo diaper thing ever did.
But this looks like something that I can actually see him wearing either into battle into a fight.
Yeah, so, like, it's like I said, you can design an outfit that looks more detailed and realistic and interesting, but still have that effect where if you squint and blur your vision, it looks like the classic version of the character.
So, yeah, hats off all around.
Absolutely.
He looks wonderful, and I really love the tooth necklace.
I love that necklace too. And I love that he like comes in with like a little cape hanging from it that he takes off in his intro.
Ah, yes. See, he shouldn't ever fight with the cape on, but I like that they introduced him with it on.
Yeah, because like that is like a thing he's had before. Like in the movie, he wore the cape in some scenes. Even in the MK1 comic, like when he's when Shang Tsung is giving the welcome
speech
to the tournament speech, Goro is standing next to him, wearing a big red cape.
Matter of fact, you know what? When I get that Storm Collectibles figure that's coming out in next month, I think I might sew him a cape.
Nice.
So, stop by Fabricville. Anyway.
Yeah, so, like, definitely the MKX look is a much better reimagining of, like, classic MK1-ish Goro than what happened in 9.
Yeah.
There's an interesting subtle thing where, like, he's got face paint. Like, he's got war paint of, like, a skull over half of his face, and it's sort of faded and you can't always see it, but I kind of like that too.
It works.
Yeah.
It's good. When I first saw it, I thought it was just like the fact that the skin was stretched taut over his face to make him look a bit skeletal and more imposing. But it is war paint, and
yeah, like you can see it better in the concept art because it's whiter. Another thing I really love is his win pose in X, where he just like smears a handprint of blood across his chest, as though the blood is also war paint.
Tribal and dirty and warlike.
Yes, no, it's so
wonderful.
Like it gets the character, and those are the things that I really look for.
There are so many reasons why I wish he was part of MKX in a more involved fashion, and his look and the voice that they gave him.
Yeah, they nailed it in a lot of ways, and then he's just not in story mode. It's a bummer.
Ugh. Oh well. Did his bio say anything interesting about him?
Not really. Let me think.
No, not really.
I can't remember what his arcade ending is. I'm looking that up.
The Shokan had become outcasts for refusing to aid at the side of the Civil War. But with the conflict over, Prince Goro decided to re-enter the political landscape. Kotal Khan's armies were weak from years of battle. Melina's rebels were scattered. It was an easy matter for the Shokan to seize control. The newly crowned Emperor Goro had his rivals exterminated. No Oshtek, Kaitin, Edenian, or Tarkatan would usurp his throne. So there you go, that's his arcade ending.
Yeah.
He becomes, like he wanted, the third...
Yeah, but I feel like to say it after the fact as an ending, it just becomes a generic ending like the what if Shao Kahn ones from the old game.
I never saw them as usurpers or conquerors, but...
Yeah, no, I think it would have been more interesting if they were involved in some way in the Civil War as it was actually happening. Like in the comic.
Best we can get, I guess, for the time. Oh well. Complaints about move theft from Kentaro and Shiva aside, and lack of presence in the story mode, Goro was one of the things I was most looking forward to in MKX. And it was still fun playing as him.
Yeah, they definitely made his gameplay look like it would be interesting, like hyping up the concept of the punch walk as like a marketing thing and all that.
Hashtag punch walk. I used it.
I think there's a slight problem gameplay-wise with MKX Goro where people feel like he's much lower tier than he should be.
It is a hard thing to balance a character like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what fighting game franchise you're in. If a character is a bulky powerhouse, he's very often either OP or utterly useless.
Yeah, because, like, in the process of making sure he's not OP, you end up nerfing, like, too much?
Like, you don't want it to be the point where he's like Potemkin, where he's so slow, but he hits you twice and the round is over.
Yeah.
That's not fun for anyone. Now, he still plays more like I would always imagine Kintaro would play, but I feel like your ideal Goro would be actually surprisingly agile, MK4 style, have a series of grapple maneuvers. You wouldn't want to get anywhere near him, but it'd be hard to keep him away.
You know what I think it is? It's like a body proportion thing. Like, in MK1 and the 3D era, they had the really long torso, and then it made their legs look tiny, or like maybe they just really did have too short of legs. And a character that is like all torso and tiny legs is going to look weird throwing like a roundhouse kick. Whereas what made MK4 Goro unique is that he's like all leg. And he's throwing the high kicks and it looks perfectly normal.
The model itself looks weird, but he looks good in the game, so it balances out.
Yeah, I mean, compared to everybody else, it's, the graphics of MK4 dated as they are. But he didn't look any weirder than any other character in-game.
So I guess that's the story of Goro in the main games.
Yeah. I mean, there is, I guess, Shaolin monks. Its use of Goro was, somewhere between how the old timeline and 9 used him, where, like, they were acknowledging the idea that he went into hiding after MK1, but at the same time, like, they're finding him during MK2, and then they're killing him in a fight. So
even when they're doing something interesting, they're fucking it up.
Yeah. It was kind of funny, though, where after you beat him and go for the fatality input, your character doesn't do the fatality. Johnny Cage walks in from off-screen, puts up his hand to stop you, and shadow kicks through his stomach, and then just walks back off.
Oh god, I forgot about that. Oh, that was wonderful. That might be the earliest nod to the movie rivalry, right there.
Yeah. Well, no, there was like a poster that came out with MK4 that advertised Goro being in the home versions. It was a picture of Goro standing on a cliff,
and he had Johnny Cage's severed head.
Spine up in there. Yeah.
So now that we've covered all the games, it's time to move into extraneous source material.
Goro is in a surprising amount of it for a very expensive special effect.
He is, and I credit that with basically him being around more or less at the time when there was a lot of it.
Yeah,
like, we weren't doomed to like the odd web series here or there, and that's about it,
Yeah, that's true. It was like fresh and becoming a thing, as opposed to now where people only use it when they want to like capitalize on nostalgia
or create tie-in products.
Yeah. So, I mean, chronologically, I guess the first thing would be, is it the Roven novel or the Malibu comics?
It's the Malibu comics first, I think.
Okay.
Although, we could cover the Jeff Roven novel very, very briefly, because it is worth mentioning that that was one of the first things that I think gave him that sense of honor that he became known for having, actually.
I suppose, because, I mean, all of the characters were very, steeped in, like, Roven was attempting to make something feel authentically Chinese folklore-y.
Yes.
So, like, when he was getting into, like, the Outworld characters, and he was depicting them as, like, mythological demons. I guess, like, in Eastern culture, demons are rarely stupid brutes.
He did come across as very much a henchman, but he was a henchman that, fought honorably and well, and if I'm remembering right, he treated Kung Lao with respect during the fight.
Yeah.
Before he ripped out his heart. Not too much else to say about him, really. Like, that's his major part in the novel. He's around during the big fight and whatnot, but...
Yeah, he's not in it a lot, and
he doesn't have a pivotal role.
All the interesting things that we could say about the novel in general, we already did in our review of the novel.
Yeah.
So,
so I guess that brings us to the Malibu comic.
And there is quite a bit to say about Goro, the Prince of Pain, in the Malibu comic.
I just want to say one thing about the Prince of Pain as a title for a character. It's fucking awesome, alright? You can take your immortal champion of Mortal Kombat, or your Chinese ninja warrior, or your feared emperor of Outworld.
As a tagline, I do actually think Prince of Pain is pretty good.
Do you know what I'd give to be called the Prince of Pain every day as I went into work?
I especially remember it because, like, Malibu pushed it so hard that, like, you would see it used outside of stuff talking about Malibu. Like, an EGM magazine would just be doing an article about Mortal Kombat, and they'd call Goro the Prince of Pain.
It's a great tagline. Bring it back. Hashtag Prince of Pain.
It became how he was known. Like, you know, Kane is the big red machine. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the Texas rattlesnake.
Big red machines don't got nothing on the Prince of Pain. I try to keep on saying it, Prince of Pain. The alliteration is rewarding. So aside from referring to himself in the third person, like every single person in the comic does.
Yeah, it was very...
poorly...
I imagine it was trying to be Chris Claremont's writing style and just way overdoing it.
Sometimes I wonder if there wasn't like an edict from Midway or whatever.
Make sure they always say their name.
Exactly.
The kids need to know who the characters are.
So they can go and buy the action figure.
Exactly.
Damn straight.
Gotta keep pushing the product.
He's basically himself for most of it, and very ruthless and whatnot, and
he is, like, he's definitely, like, they emphasize his intelligence there, too, because isn't he one of the people who, solves one of the riddles in Shang's magic book, the Tao Te Zan, or whatever it was?
I think he is actually the one that solves the last one. It was either him or I don't know, it was either him or Sub-Zero. One of the two of them.
Well, no, I definitely remember that Sub-Zero wins the tournament.
Yeah.
Because they
Goro.
were rushing to get to the end, so they wrote that Shang decided, you know what? We'll settle this by a race up the mountain. The first person to get this pendant wins Mortal Kombat. And Sub-Zero won while he was on fire dying because Scorpion got to him.
We'll save that for the Beyond Retrospective because that's just one more example of badassness.
Yeah.
But that was actually the end of MK2. Partway through the Malibu run, they specify that Liu Kang beat Goro and won Shang's tournament, and they never showed it depicted.
First tournament ends
The
off
whole thing happened off screen. Yeah, all of it. Like the Fourth Letter blog said, fuck the game story, we gotta show off the fucking combatant. Which brings us to the Prince of Pain miniseries.
This riddle book is very important.
Clearly. So, the first series was like called Blood and Thunder, if I recall. And towards the end of it, he disappears. He disappears after all the riddle shit.
Yeah, he is abducted by
Zagat, the god of chaos.
Yes. And we have talked about Zagat before, but just in case you've missed it, Zagat is Gandalf with the Joker's color scheme.
And really prominent gums.
His character design. And he hangs out with, like, a talking crow or raven, I think?
It's a raven named Rook, who has green laser vision. But Rook's actually a part of him. Like, they merge and, like, form his true form at the end. Like,
Rook's
like an avatar or something.
Nightwolf.
Yeah, pretty well. So, Goro gets teleported to Zagat because Zagat sees him as a potential weapon of chaos that he can use in his ongoing war and feud with Abacus, the god of order.
I love that he's named Abacus.
It's perfect, actually.
I'm not so much a fan of his design because it's just a guy in a black spandex bodysuit. Like, there's no detail to him at all.
He's very well groomed, apart from, like, opposed to Zagat.
He also has long hair and a beard, like long white hair, just like Zagat has long green hair and a beard. Except he keeps it in a ponytail, so...
Yeah, there's nothing particularly creative about his design, but he was all well-groomed to represent order and, like, neatness, and the first time you see him, he's playing chess.
I feel like you can get across the concept of neatness and order, but also have the guy wearing more clothes than just, like, a black leotard.
Oh yeah, his base design left a lot to be desired.
Like, he could have been, like, modern, like, that would have been cool.
So, basically, Goro tells Zagat to go and F himself. And Zagat responds to this by creating the combatant. Which, I don't know if our listeners have maybe heard where we've discussed this in prior episodes, but the combatant is like something a 10-year-old kid would have whipped up.
Yeah, he has like one limb from every character from MK1 or something like that. And he's a Cyclops.
Yeah. He's got like a giant metal head with one glowing red eye. Presumably this is the Kano part because all the arms were taken.
Yeah. He does shoot a laser out of the eye, I'm pretty sure, so
He
that does make sense.
And that predates MK3.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody always thought he should be shooting a laser out of his eye, and that's why they put it in 3.
Yeah. So he's wearing, like, one of every character's armbands or, like, arm guards or whatever, and it's 10 kinds of stupid. That aside, it's just Goro from the neck down. It's terrible. So, the combatant beats the crap out of Goro somehow, and then Goro winds up, like, being saved, I think, by Abacus, the God of Order, who then gives Goro a weapon to take down Zagat with. And what is this weapon? It's the most 90s cable penis envy gun you will ever see.
It's a giant. These 90s guns never even looked like guns. People call cables guns toasters for a reason.
It's a cannon gun with 4 handholds, and the thing is the size of Goro's chest.
If you imagine like a bazooka, like a rocket launcher, but with a pistol handle, and it's square instead of round, and it shoots lasers instead of missiles.
Like, if you just Google Goro Prince of Pain on an image search, it's the first image down in the 3rd row. And the dialogue is, "That's what I thought too, Zagat, that Goro would make a most unfitting agent for the God of Order. But Abacus has a theory, one that Goro plans to put to a test. So, let's get crazy." It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. There's not too much else to say about the Prince of Pain series. Like, that was the most important part.
I can think of a thing to say. The fuck even.
He beats Zagat by not fighting him because fighting creates chaos. So Zagat winds up like clawing and scratching at him, and it has no effect because Goro doesn't want to fight. And as a consequence, Zagat shrinks, and Goro eats him, and then he gets teleported back to Outworld, I guess, and that's where the series kind of ends. And then, like, Abacus and Zagat are just kind of feuding over, oh, fine, Abacus was right this time through. And we do follow Goro from there. He pops up here and there. At one point, he ambushes Jax and hits him with a barbell in his gym.
Yeah. Doesn't he, like, drop it across his neck or something? Like,
he cracks him in the back of the head with it, if I'm remembering right. This is during the period where, like, they're provoking everyone to get them to come back to Outworld. I think,
right. This is Jax's invitation to the second tournament.
Yep.
Just clock him. You want payback? Come and get me.
Oh my god, it's wonderful. There is also a little one-shot solo story of his in one of the later issues where they actually have him fight Kintaro.
I do remember that. I don't remember why they were fighting, but I do remember drawings of them fighting.
Bad drawings. The art in this one was particularly terrible.
We can't emphasize enough how 90s the book was. It's clearly somebody trying to be Rob Liefeld, which is...
Rob Liefeld imitation.
And then worse than that.
There are a few select issues where the art's pretty decent, but you notice things like people copy-pasting the same panel over and over, and...
Everybody is just so, like, angular, and, like, the shading is very lazy hatching, like, the lines are too far apart.
Yeah.
And you can, like, this is the same art that's in one of the, like, the MK3 Collector's Edition guide, which is not a strategy guide, it's just a bunch of interviews with Ed and John about each character in MK3.
That was a nice opportunity, though, for me at least, to actually see what the characters would have looked like if these series had continued and art-wise. Because it wasn't all terrible, just mostly terrible.
Well, the funny thing is, like, the art is almost all by the Malibu guys, except I think Cyrax.
I'm gonna have to go and look this up again. Oh my god.
It might not have been Cyrax, but there's, like, one character who's, like, their page that would normally have been the Malibu art was John Tobias art from the game.
So yeah, Kintaro attacks Goro because he's pissy that Goro lost and he's a disgrace and this and that, and they have a good fight, and they do end it with Goro winning, which I do tend to approve of, despite all my love for Kintaro. Just because, someone is stronger and more agile, quote, doesn't mean they should be winning every single fight.
I suppose. I don't know. I feel like you gotta push the more important, quote-unquote, character, which is obviously Goro. But I wish there was, like, a definitive proof that Kintaro is physically stronger.
I mean, for me, it's right there in the bio. Stronger and more agile than his predecessor. But that doesn't mean he's going to take him in a fight.
I suppose. Goro does have that... He is Shang Tsung's pupil. He learned the punch from a distance spell.
Hashtag punch walk. Something that Kintaro should be doing, but no. Anyway, do we have anything else to say about Malibu apart from the fact that Goro winds up being beaten by Bihan, which is awesome?
I mean, he was beaten in a race, not a fight, but still. The guy can jump the mountain. Like, what? He's, like, holding himself back.
No, like, Goro catches up to him at the very end, and Sub-Zero actually does beat him in a fight.
Oh, was it really down to the two of them? I forgot
It was down to the two of them.
No, like, the very last, like, Scorpion is the last thing that comes against him.
Yeah, and Bihan turns his back, and he's like, I beat you in a fight, and, you're still after this. I'm gonna just turn my back and walk away, and if you kill me, you're a coward. And then, no, that's exactly what happens.
He dies on fire.
These people, they think everything's fine, everything's good.
They wake up the next morning
tournaments and they're on fire. G.I. Joe! So I guess that'll take us to the movie.
Yeah.
And what a movie it was.
The movie, we have talked often about how good the movie is and how influential it's been on the characters, and I think Goro is no exception.
We say this unironically. I see a lot of people out there who are actually down on the movie, and I don't like that.
I get upset when I see people talking like, yeah, it was good for its time, or it was good for a video game movie, or it's cheesy, but no, I actually really, really genuinely like the 1995 MK film.
So do I. It's not Academy Award material or anything.
No, but the Academy Awards go to movies that are boring.
They are.
I don't care about
this. Is a fun fucking movie. I unironically like it. I don't think it deserves to be shat on. And sometimes I wonder if people are just remembering MK Annihilation the way they describe it.
Seems like it sometimes.
So Goro, brought to us by the Jim Henson Studio, if I'm not mistaken.
Most good animatronics are Henson's company. I mean, I think a lot of the credit for how I picture Goro in my head has to go to Kevin Michael Richardson for the voice in the movie.
He never came back for that, though, sadly.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. Kevin Michael Richardson does cartoons and video games. There's no reason NRS should not be getting him for the game.
Are you listening, NRS? I know you're listening. Give our boy a call.
Do it. You know you want to.
The voice was flawless for him. It set the stage for, I think, for all the voice actors who did later on come. Goro in MK4 did sound a little like he did in the movie. Not exact match, but you could tell that they had left their mark.
I mean, most things, it's a guy growling and they put a filter on it. MK didn't really stand out as a voice. It was just a generic monster voice. MKX is definitely more like the movie.
Yeah.
It's got a little touch of that, how lucky for them,
back home. MKX and movie Goro are forever intertwined in my mind. I was so happy when I first saw him. But I've gushed about that enough already here.
Something like Underground.
Something like that.
I'm Underworld boss myself.
Back home.
Back home.
The only thing about animatronic Goro that bugs me a little bit is that sometimes he does come off as a little stiff. Nothing's perfect. I see that these days. When the movie first came out, I was blind to it. I was too hypnotized by all of the awesomeness on screen.
the disappointing thing for me about, like, sort of the limited capability of the puppet is that the original script had his fight with Johnny Cage much longer. Like, originally, before Johnny led him to the cliff and knocked him off, he was going to lead him, like, through the statues of the warrior shrine, hiding behind them and waiting for him, and then, like, gradually, like, breaking his hands with a chain. So he'd take out, like, arm by arm, slowly whittling him down.
That was in the novel, too.
Yeah.
And a brief point I'll make about the novel is that it also makes a point of bringing about Goro's sense of honor.
Yeah, there is specifically a moment in the novelization, and I'm betting it was in the original script too, and they just cut it for time, where once Johnny does knock him off the cliff and he's hanging there, instead of going straight to "this is where you fall down," Johnny actually offers him a hand up, and Goro is like, "What, so I can die wounded in a cave of shame? No, I would rather die a warrior's death," and chooses to let go and fall.
While "this is where you fall down" is memorable, I think that might have been a lot better to see.
Yeah.
There's that, and there's one other moment. When he's fighting Art and he just trounces him. At the very, very end, before he delivers the final blow, he lifts him up and he says, sadly, the novel makes a point of saying that he says this sadly, "You fought well." It's just such a nice little moment.
Yeah.
The fact that he actually shows respect for his defeated opponents. Little touches like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like the movie is kind of the only time we get to see Goro characterized as, like... One of the reasons Liu Kang beats him is because a guy who's been undefeated for 500 years is going to get cocky. And I don't think we see that actually come out in his character anywhere other than the movie. The banquet scene with Kano, Shang walks in, and he's like, "You need to look out for this Liu Kang character," and Goro's like, "I don't care about this monk."
Doesn't care about Katana.
Yeah.
He's expecting to win everything.
And Shang is just like, "Now is not the time for foolish pride."
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, why do you think he was wandering around the caves just yelling?
I feel like there's a mirror in there we couldn't see, and he was posing in front of it.
That always did bug me a little bit. Like, what's he doing back there?
Well,
did he drop a contact lens?
As we know from the games, the Shokan do have this habit of just stopping to pose and roar for no reason.
Fair enough. Just picturing the MK1 sprite back there. Brah!
I'd like to imagine a time when Shao Kahn is like, "Why do you keep letting them hit you?" And they're like, "I learned it from you, Dad."
I don't know what you're talking about. Further things to say about Goro in the movie. I kind of feel like that moment where, like, he beats 21 guys to Buckethead music was just kind of put there to set a bit of a scene, or because of, I don't know,
well,
time constraints.
The reason I believe that scene
you have to show that there were other people in the tournament that got beaten.
I think it does that, but I think more importantly, the thing about making a movie and, like, 3-act structure is, like, in the second act, it's supposed to be the part where, like, things start getting bad for the heroes, so you start feeling like they're the underdog and rooting for them towards the climax. But the plot of MK1 is, because it's a tournament, which means there's a bracket, the good guys have to win all their fights to stay in the story. You have to create a part where the bad guys get to win against something. And so their version of that was to have Goro mow through a whole bunch of NPCs.
And Art Lean.
Yes, and Art.
Because that's Art Lean's role in a nutshell, and you can't have more than one Art.
I always felt like the smarter way to do it would have been to, because it is a tournament bracket, have the heroes start to have to fight each other. Like, as they get towards the end, you know, you go from, like, 8 matches to 4 matches to 2 matches. They have to eliminate each other for there to be one last man standing.
I can just picture it now. Liu Kang beats Johnny to get to Goro. Finish him! Shut up.
Yeah.
Turns around, walks over. I said to... Ugh.
Every time with this guy.
Most I've gotten out of him was a cartwheel uppercut. A postscript, fate of the Goro animatronic model, time was not kind to it.
It usually isn't to animatronics and monster suits in general because of like the materials involved, like the latex and stuff. As a Power Rangers fan, I know that like when Japan sends the monster suits to America so that they can film their own footage, usually what ends up happening is if the suit is like more than a year old, it's starting to fall apart.
Now, from all indications, I can see the Goro puppet seems to be intact. A lot of pictures of it still out there.
Yeah.
Which makes me happy.
I'm surprised that there's as much of it as there is, considering, like, all the difficulty they had filming that fight against Johnny, specifically because, like, it couldn't handle, like, the rough terrain and stepping in puddles and things like that. It was starting to get damaged, I think.
I mean, probably not all of it held up, but I do seem to be seeing some recent-ish pictures of it.
One thing I want to mention that I really enjoy is...
Do you know the model had 3 toes? I'm looking at it right now. It's on yourprops.com.
Yeah, they made some slight artistic license choices. For example, the human eyes with the white sclera.
Actually, I really liked Goro's eyes in the film.
They were alright.
They were creepy.
They're kind of creepy.
Little evil pupils.
I feel like the glassy red-black is a little more fitting.
It's more classic, yeah, but I don't feel like the white sclera is wrong. It works. It makes him look intimidating and imposing.
But yeah, one thing I enjoy is that in the movie credits, Goro is credited at playing himself.
Yes.
And they film some behind the scenes footage where the director is like talking about Goro as if he's not a puppet, he's a real actor, and he's like hard to work with.
Okay, the head of the model is on display at NetherRealm Studios.
Ah, that's neat.
Son of a bitch.
Lucky them.
Ah, okay. TRMK, Patrick McCarran, one of his friends saw Goro's head up for auction at a prop store, and McCarran told the guys at NRS.
Huh.
And they bought it for about $1,800. And that's where it lies to this day.
Well, kudos.
All's well that ends well.
So Goro falls off a cliff and dies in the movie, and that spares him from appearing in Annihilation.
Yes, that fate befell his unfortunate cousin Shiva. She got a very, very good showing, she did. The date's over.
It sure was.
Can't wait for that Shiva retrospective. Holy God. How to not use a character. But you know, that was probably because they... First off, Shiva looked like crap, okay? It was bad CG. Really bad CG. And bad CG in a fight, yeah, that wasn't going to happen. They did not have the time, budget, or technique to make that look good.
Shiva is in a weird way harder to do than Goro in the mid-90s because she's shorter. It means you're going to cast a real actress instead of a full-body puppet.
Probably.
Which means you have to figure out how to animate 2 arms instead of a whole body. Which is
I think it could have
more
been
complicated, sort of. Because it has to look like it's part of the actor wearing it.
They could have made do. I could have seen a lot of, like, sideways double punches, like a punch walk.
Well, I mean, that point in the 90s was like, you know, after Spawn and shit like that, was where movie studios were going, hey, CGI is becoming a thing. Let's use it because we can. And because it's like the hot new shit. So like you had them going, hey, we don't have to make a Motaro puppet, we'll make CGI Motaro, etc.
God, you know, I'm looking at Shiva right now and she looks even worse in a still than she does in motion. Like, you can really, really tell 2 of the arms are entirely CG. Yeah, it's an actress, and 2 of the arms are CG. Christ, this looks like shit. Oh my god.
Kid me's memories of it are more convincing by far than it really is.
Christ, people, you think Annihilation looks bad in motion? Look at it still. Holy god.
But Goro wasn't in that.
Thankfully.
Goro technically isn't in the Conquest TV show either.
I think that they mention him.
Well, yeah, so there's a thing they do where the great Kung Lao is occasionally having nightmares of how he's going to die. So we get these weird partial glimpses and flashes of Goro. Which is funny because the end of the series, he dies by the hands of someone who is not Goro at all.
Look, it was nice that they had plans.
Yeah, they had plans. And then there wasn't a second season, so those plans didn't happen. But they knew what they were supposed to be doing with the lore. They knew who was supposed to kill Great Kung Lao.
You know, they tried. They really did. And I appreciate it.
I mean, there is an occasional CG shot of, like, whenever they transition to the cobalt mines for a Shang Tsung scene. They will sometimes show, like, a Shokan standing on a pillar, yelling at slaves to mine the cobalt or something like that.
I seem to recall seeing that particular shot used in every other episode.
Yeah.
Like, whenever they're about to show Shang Tsung sitting on a rock.
It's like, he's only actually in the cobalt mines for, like, 2/3 of the show. Like, towards the end, he just stops going there, and Shao Kahn is like, fucking Shang, now I'm gonna kill him. And that's when Shang starts hanging out with the fucking Kriya people and shit like that.
That was the point of the show where I was starting to go, wait, what?
Yeah, it's clear that, like, the history of Great Kung Lao is not enough to make a TV series. You have to make up all kinds of shit, like, hey, what if Scorpion was there? And what if the Black Dragon Gang was there?
I did appreciate that they tried to make Scorpions relevant to the guy's origin.
I mean, they named the guy Takeda, which is the founder of the Shirai Ryu in Mythology's backstory, but he's possessed by, like, a magic scorpion from Outworld.
They can't all be winners. Look, it's more entertaining than Annihilation was. Give it that.
It is, I guess, but that's a real low bar.
Look, it gave us oily Noob Saibot, and now we have Noob Saibot dripping shadows.
It did.
There's some kind of connection there if you squint, I swear to God.
Oh, you know what? We are going to have plenty of time to appreciate Conquest one day, sir. We're gonna do those episodes.
I bought the DVDs. I guess I have to watch them.
We're gonna do it. We're not gonna do it soon, but we're gonna do it.
Do you know what my motivation was when I bought Conquest on DVD?
Was it the show? Was it to do Lost episodes?
No. It was not so much I have to watch this again, so much as I should probably pick this up before it goes out of print.
Yeah.
Probably.
You know, I haven't thought of that. I should be getting on that DVD. I just have, like, ripped on my computer.
Let's see if it's still possible to Amazon.com for you.
I mean, even if it's out of sale, like, I could still... I'm sure somebody's scalping it, you know?
It's $11.95 on Amazon.
Ah.
Get on it.
I will do that.
No, you're not. Prove me wrong.
I'm way more excited about, like, commentary on Conquest than you are.
Honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to rediscovering it. You know what? I don't remember. Before the DVD came out in the US, I actually had the PAL DVDs because I was convinced it was never going to come out here, and then it did. I might still have those kicking around somewhere if I didn't give them away. I forget. I'll investigate.
All right. Well,
so we haven't talked about Goro for about 5 minutes now.
Yeah. So about Goro.
I mean, is there really anything else out there? He didn't show up in the TV series.
The cartoon was a sequel to the first movie, and he was dead, so he never shows up in it. We talked about the MKX comic, because it's sort of canon. I think that's pretty much it. So I guess we could move on to like
Questions?
yeah, let's do questions. I mean, unless you want to do first like favorite costume, finishing move, that sort of thing.
Well, I feel like we kind of discussed this last time a little bit, but I guess that this for me really boils down to a choice between his classic look and MKX.
Yeah,
And it's a hard choice, actually.
the pajamas with only one sleeve that are his deception alternate is not great.
No. Any outfit where Goro is wearing armor is just right off the list off the bat for me. Can't do it. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Like, if you introduce a Shokan whose thing is that he's, like, a great, big, powerful battlefield warmonger, then yeah, I'm all about that, but I feel like Goro needs to be, like, wearing nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Part of his imagery is, I guess, Pancratian Greek fighter. He doesn't need all that much. He should be, like, getting in there, crushing skulls, and kicking ass.
Got kind of like a sumo vibe from it.
Yeah, that too.
But yeah, like that's the weird thing though, like because if you cover that look in his primary and he's in a game like all the modern games, everybody has at least 2 costumes. What the hell do you do else with him?
And really, I have a hard time choosing. I really do, because the MKX outfit really, really nailed it. I might actually have to give it to MKX over the classic.
I do like it a lot. I don't know, because the classic is the same way as like an MK1 Retro Ninja outfit. Like there's a time and a place.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope to see it back if they ever reboot it again, or when they reboot again. Maybe updated slightly, not to the degree that MKX's was changed.
Yeah, somewhere in between.
Like you said, the yin-yang feels right.
Yeah.
But best fatality.
For fatalities, like... I mean, he has them in other games, but they aren't really, like, the effort put in that the MKX ones have.
He pushed it in. That's all I need to say. That's the best goddamn thing he's ever done. It's nasty, it's hilarious, makes me cringe. Easy choice.
I dig it. So yeah, I guess we pretty much covered him, so we can go to questions.
Indeed.
All right, the first one we have, and this is way back in July, so sorry it took so long, everybody.
Again, I'm sorry about the pneumonia. This is true. This is actually the first time you're going to be listening to us since that very, very long break. If you didn't read the YouTube comments, I had pneumonia and burnout, and it just took me a long, long, long time to get around to being in the condition to finish anything and do anything. And that's part of the reason that you're going to get the Goro episode much sooner than you're expecting as you listen to it right now. Because I want to make that up to you. My original plan and hope was to get all the MK1 characters done by the end of December. I don't know if that's going to happen, because with the 2 we have left, we have a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll try our best.
That 1 every 2 weeks is what it would take.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I do have the back half of December off, so I have plenty of free time around then. So I think that at the least we can get the next character done.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We could probably, like, at least do Scorpion and then start the year with the 2 Sub-Zeros.
That might be a good way to get into it. Sure, why not?
All right, so the question, Cartuthalo, frequent person, asker. He asks, do you think they should break up Cassie's team and have them go solo and do their own thing? If so, who benefits the most and who benefits the least? And he personally feels that Cassie benefits the least, while the other 3 would benefit more. Because, he says Cassie doesn't really have anything interesting left for her to do, whereas, like, Jin can save Kung Lao, and Takeda has the Red Dragon having killed his mom, getting revenge, and Jackie has, if the endings come true where Aaron Black killed Jax, that's something for her. But, like, it feels like there's nothing for Cassie, he says. So what do you think?
I think that they absolutely do need to split up. It says a little something when people just tend to call them the Combat Kids as a group.
Yeah.
And everyone needs their own odyssey, and everyone needs to be developed.
I mean...
And I think that you can extend that to Cassie as well.
Yeah,
because she was just kind of like Lady McProtagonist.
The big like, there's this big difference in how it feels to have, like, the group of Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Raiden from the first game versus how the feel of the group, Cassie, Jackie, Jin, and Takeda. And that's because, like, when we were introduced to Liu, Johnny, and Sonya, they weren't really a team. They were just individuals who were united by a common cause.
Yeah.
Like the Avengers or the Justice League. As opposed to, like, Cassie and her group are a team first and individuals second, and that's the problem.
This is kind of, I think, one of the big reasons why no one gives a shit about Alpha Flight. It's not just because they're all loser Canadians.
I mean, you can have teams that are a team first, like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. Not all of the Teen Titans, because Robin is definitely his own guy, and they've tried to make Cyborg his own guy, but the Teen Titans are mostly only good as a team.
Most of those guys, though, most of those X-Men, the Fantastic Four, they've all had their own histories.
Yeah,
they've all
like...
had the benefit of years and years of storytelling to build up their universes and their own backyards, like the Thing has, the Yancey Street Gang.
Yeah, like, the thing is, like, you can take the Fantastic Four and give the Thing his own book if you want to, and people will go for that. Because the Thing is so interesting. And, like, especially, one of the things about the X-Men is that Wolverine always sort of dominates X-Men, like, movies and cartoons and stuff, because he's the most able to stand out as an individual. He doesn't need the team to carry his stories.
He's probably got more backstory than most of the X-Men combined.
Yeah. And, like, that is definitely something that Cassie's team needs. There's a couple things that Cassie's team needs. One of them is, like, I don't want them to stop being a team, because I want Frost to join the team, and that can't happen if there's no team.
Very altruistic reasons.
But...
I mean, she's a natural candidate.
I think that the person who benefits the least from them splitting up is Jackie, because everything benefits Jackie the least no matter what it is. She is the least developed character. Like, Cassie on her own could still exist as this generation's main hero. Like, that's boring, but that's kind of what she was created to be, I feel like, so that's what they can do with her. Like, so she sort of doesn't need sidekicks to keep making bosses look stupid.
She has the benefit of parents and coming from a broken home and has the groundwork for the future.
Yeah, also, one of the things that we complain about with the Combat Kids is that they all kind of have the same personality. It's like the Ninja Turtles with 4 Michelangelos. It's a problem.
They're all antsy and full of piss and vinegar, and they all have something to prove, right? You know?
They all quip and joke too much, is really... And, like, the person who owns quipping and joking, the one who should be quipping and joking, is Cassie, because she's Johnny's daughter. And
exactly.
So, like, if you separate them, she has ownership of the team personality, and the other 3 have to get their own thing.
Which is one of the reasons I actually say that I think that they should throw Jackie to the wolves a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, her dad doesn't necessarily have to die, but she could stand to, I don't know, get up there, make some personal enemies, have shit happen. Kung Jin and Takeda at least got the benefit of a couple of cutscenes and backstory each, and Jackie's is like, oh, my dad doesn't want me to go to the army, he's gonna kill me.
Yeah, every line out of her mouth is my dad this, my dad that, fighter Mac for my dad.
Yeah.
The only thing she has of her own is a romance with Takeda, and there's zero chemistry there. It is so out of left field.
I think she could stand to go on like a Cyrax-esque odyssey.
I mean, the best way to fix them, and it's too late to do this, would be to introduce them differently. Because I maintain that one of the problems with Jackie is also her moveset, the fact that she's a punches and gauntlets character, and that being too similar to Jax's metal arms. And I think that she should have been introduced as someone who was, like, injured in an Outworld attack and lost her legs and has prosthetic legs, because then she'd be all robot legs and kicking, which is similar to Jax thematically, but completely different moves.
I don't know about
Again,
robot
it's too
legs.
late. It's too late. This is what we have to live with.
They could still do it, but I would actually maybe take the opportunity to, I guess, kind of develop on that angle that they never seem to get around to really using with Jax, which is to maybe integrate her into the net or the framework or the matrix or whatever the hell you want to call it.
So to play with those endings where he becomes Cyborg from the Teen Titans and logs on.
Pretty much. Like, I would not mind seeing that at all. I feel like metal legs are just a bit too safe. Really take it to the next level.
I feel like if you're gonna turn someone into like an internet-based, like a hacker, you first have to establish that they are smart enough to be a hacker. And Jackie, like, she's not dumb, but she's just a regular person. She's not a computer nerd. Like, Takeda, if anything, is the tech guy of the team.
They just gave everyone else so much to fucking work with.
Yeah, like I talk about them all being the same Ninja Turtle, but it's really that they're all half the same Ninja Turtle and half their own. So, like, Cassie is Leo and Mike. Jackie is Leo and Mike. Jin is Raph and Mike. And Takeda is Donatello and Mike.
Out of all 4 Ninja Turtles, you had to duplicate that one. Come on, guys. He's just a party dude. So, next question?
The next question is, what if the Raiden from Armageddon, like the one in the first scene of MK9, is actually trying to, like, play out a corrupt agenda when he sends the vision to MK9 Raiden? Like, he wanted Raiden to screw up the things on purpose? My answer to that, this question is from The Rival, my answer to that is that it's something that people suggested on the internet a lot back in 2011 when the game came out, as an attempt to justify all the stupid writing and plot holes that are in MK9. And I think that, like, it's admirable that you're trying, but there's no way that was what they intended. It's not bad on purpose, it's just bad.
He was corrupt, not stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, the way things panned out doesn't really make Earth the militaristic, safe society that Dark Raiden seems to want it to be. So I gotta say no.
Yeah, and there's really no hint in the MK9 cutscenes that Dark Raiden was actually dark. Like, he acted like regular Raiden, just wearing Dark Raiden's costume. And that's actually a minor complaint I have with the writing of that one scene that he's in, that he should have acted darker.
Give him redder eyes and a big old angry gritted teeth grimace.
Like, he should have been saying some, like, villain shit to Shao Kahn. Like, that fight should have been heel versus heel, and that's not how they staged it at all.
So Rain Reptile asks us, are other realms such as Outworld, Edenia, or Order Realm actually different dimensions or just different planets in the distant reaches of our own cosmos? If the realms are separate universes, do they also have their own star systems, galaxies, and laws of physics? What would the cosmic universe of Chaos Realm look like? Now, caveat, like he says, during the Sony retrospective we kind of answered a similar question, but we can still at least answer the one about the laws of physics and astronomy.
Yeah, because he asks about Chaos Realm in particular, and that's an interesting one to ask about, because the games actually do say that the laws of physics don't work right in the realm of chaos.
Yeah.
There's a whole origin story to that that's given in Deception Conquest when you go there. And, like, Shujinko runs around talking to people. And what you find out is that Chaos Realm used to be a normal realm like Earth. But one day, the god of chaos showed up, and he created this giant energy tornado called the Tempest, which is the big tornado in the center of the Conquest map. And it turned the realm into Chaos Realm. So now it's, like, not a planet anymore, it's just floating chunks of rock in space that all spin around that tornado in orbit. And, like, you can only get from place to place with those teleporter pads that Shujinko uses to travel. There's all kinds of, like, other signs of this. Like, you go to a graveyard in Chaos Realm, and all the tombstones are floating in the air upside down. Like, they don't bury people, they have floating sarcophaguses, because that's the opposite of burying someone. And, like...
They go up.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, there are pyramids, but they're upside down, too? Like, they're balanced on their point or something?
Not sure, but you might also be thinking of Sado.
Well, Sado does have, like, a big pyramid in the center. But I think there's like, ziggurat-style pyramids in Chaos Realm.
There's concept art of Sado where you can see that it's basically a series of straight floating pyramids.
Cyberpunk cities floating in the sky. And that concept art is from MK9's Challenge Tower. And I always thought that was really cool, because I feel like Order Realm should have more technology. I feel like being good at math and science is very orderly and fits Sado. And also, like, the theme of Cyberpunk is always, like, being in a fascist, very heavily controlled society, and that fits Sado, too.
I would be very down with Mecha Hotaru. Man, that is fun to say. Mecha Hotaru.
Mecha Hotaru. It is fun.
Fuck hashtag Prince of Pain, hashtag Mecha Hotaru.
But anyway, yeah, like, so the laws of physics are broken in Chaos Realm, and that's part of, like, the theme of Chaos Realm is that nobody follows the law there, everybody does the opposite. That goes for the laws of nature as well. Like, the reason Havoc has, like, half of his face missing, there are citizens all over Chaos Realm with chunks of flesh missing. They all look like zombies. And that's because they don't die, because death is a law of nature, and you don't follow the law in Chaos Realm.
Which, you know, kind of makes you wonder, like the question asks, what would the cosmic universe of Chaos Realm look like? And the answer is, I'd be very afraid to find out. For all I know, they don't have billions of kilometers of empty space between stars. They have chunks of flesh. It's plausible.
It is.
I don't know.
So I think though that, like, MK, there's a reason that they don't talk about outer space in MK. And what they're going for is probably the idea that, like, if you're in Earth Realm and you're on the planet Earth, which is in the dimension called Earth Realm, the reason you're not going to other planets in Earth Realm is because they're uninhabited. Aliens don't actually exist, but people in other dimensions do. So, like, planets are out there. Like, Mars is in Earth Realm.
So you define, like, Earth Realm as essentially being, like, our entire universe.
Yes, the realm of Earth is the dimension Earth is in.
That's fair.
And I mean, this is basically canon, because they talk about what portals do is they rip open holes in the fabric between dimensions, and that's what the Elder Gods don't want, and that's what unbalancing the Furies, that term from the old games, actually meant.
Yeah.
Was there's a fabric between dimensions that you have to tear a hole in to get from Earth to Outworld, and it's, like, a bad thing to do. Because, like, those walls between dimensions are the fabric of reality, and you're unraveling it, and that doesn't sound good, does it?
I would venture to say that most realms, like, I'm guessing Edenia and Outworld, their space and their star systems are probably not all that different.
Yeah,
Chaos
like,
Realm's probably the major different baby, because you can see some stages in Outworld at night, like, there are stars up there, there's a moon up there.
Yeah. And it's not, like, too weird and alien. Like, Outworld only has one moon, it seems like, so it's very similar to Earth. The planet itself looks weird because Shao Kahn has been mashing it together with other planets in other dimensions.
Yeah. I do think there is a mention in one of the, obviously non-canon, Malibu comics of Outworld having 2 moons.
Yeah, I mean, if you were designing a weird monster dimension, you would give it more than 1 moon, so it's actually kind of impressive the restraint that Midway showed.
Wouldn't mind it, but I think it is a bit too late for that now.
Yeah, but I also think, like, it's almost like there's an argument that could be made that, like, Outworld is an alternate Earth, and Edenia is an alternate Earth.
Careful, you're getting into Queen Anos territory.
I'd be okay.
You knew I was gonna do there.
I'd kind of be okay with that.
Can't wait to meet up with Ski Slack Busores. Alright, so, card to the low again. Do you want to see premier skins in MK11? And if so, which characters should have one? For example, Sub-Zero's premier skin is Frost.
That specific example is... I don't know if impossible is the term, but I know that NRS has said they will not do that because female bodies are smaller than male ones, and it would make both the body language, like the animations, weird, and it would make the hitboxes fucking wrong. So you specifically can't turn Sub-Zero into Frost, because he's a guy and she's a girl, and they have very differently shaped bodies. That said, I think the problem with the idea of premier skins is that very few characters in Mortal Kombat share moves like that. Like, it's very easy to do with comic book characters, because clone characters are super common in comics. You always have sidekicks who have the same powers as the main hero, and you always have villains who are evil versions of the main hero. You know, there's always a Reverse Flash, or a Venom, or a Sinestro to your Green Lantern, or a Bizarro to your Superman. There's tons of characters like that in comics, but there's almost none like that in MK, and the only exception is, like, Jarek and Kira, and people don't like them for specifically that reason.
There's a few characters it could work with. For me, it would depend on how they use it, because I feel like this is, for example, the only way we're ever going to see, say, female chameleon or male chameleon ever again.
Maybe.
As, like, a skin, or, like, meat for everyone or something.
Yeah, like, that could kind of work. I think a way to do it is sort of what Triborg is, where the premier skin is also tied to a variation. Or, like, if Mournful Kitana actually were Jade, so Kitana and Jade would have the same normals, but different specials. And I feel like that's a cop-out for a lot of people who are fans of those characters. Like, someone who's a Jade fan doesn't want to play Kitana with a few different moves. They want Jade to be her own whole character.
That would be a very different story for those of us who have gotten into fighting games in more recent time. For me, I'd be like, it's like coming home to UMK3 again.
That's true.
So I wouldn't entirely hate it. Although, with the proviso that I would prefer that every character be as unique as possible.
I will gladly remind the audience that in Mortal Kombat 4, every character has the same normals. There's one set of normals in that game.
So yeah, it would be a cop-out by modern standards. But I'd be way more lenient because I'm old.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be forgiving of it. I just think too many people would complain for it to be worth it.
It would be a shitstorm. So, save it for characters no one really cares about.
Like I don't mind if we lived in a universe where anyone gave a shit about seeing No Face again. I wouldn't mind him being a premier skin for Sector.
Oh my god. NetherRealm Studios, $50. That is what I'll pay for a No Face skin for Sector. $50. Do you hear me?
Good luck with that shit.
I'll give you the money. Alright. Smoke Man, what the fuck is up with Cabal's buzzsaws? How do they fucking work? Look, man.
That is a good fucking question.
You phrased it like you don't already know how they work.
Have we been down this road on the air?
Miracles, son.
Did we talk last episode about the fucking magnets? Like, I feel like Cabal came up during the Kano episode when I was bitching about the cannonball.
That too.
So, yeah, man, fucking magnets.
I promise, we're gonna have a Cabal retrospective one day, and that will last us a half an hour. The stupidity of Cabal's moveset will last us at least a half an hour. It's gonna be wonderful.
I'm looking forward to it.
From the pit 3's bottom, fresh to his hands.
So,
Good times.
Blight Phoenix asks,
Hi, Blight Phoenix.
which do you think is a worse way to go story-wise with the Melina clone situation? That Devora killed a clone, or that a clone is taking the place of the one that was killed? I think that's a weird question, because the clones weren't even said to exist until after Melina was dead. Melina clearly doesn't know about the clones in her arcade ending until she wakes up as one. So how could she have replaced herself with a clone if she didn't know they existed?
I mean, technically, option number 1 already happened because Melina is a clone.
Yeah.
Waka
Clone is
waka.
clone.
Hey,
You know the movie, the Michael Keaton movie Multiplicity, where if you clone a clone, they come out dumber?
Oh my god. Yes.
Like, the DNA starts to degrade and they come out with birth defects.
So, Melina, will you help us rule Outworld?
I like chocolate milk.
Pudding hat. Oh my god.
That's
I'm
almost
sorry.
too tragic a character.
I shouldn't find this as funny as I do.
It's really like, I'm sure there are people who are offended.
Folks, we will never again mention Derpina on the show. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person.
I want
right
fan
back.
art of her where, like, the eyes don't point in the same direction.
We can make it through this. I swear to God. We can do it.
Okay.
Holy shit, we have reached a new low. I didn't think it was possible.
I'm having trouble breathing.
We'll be right back. Alright, so, did we actually answer that question?
I actually feel like it's been answered.
Okay. Snake Eyes. What is a series with lore that you wanted to learn that you find impenetrable? I think it's a very good question.
Yeah, actually. I mean, that's hard for me, because I'm really good at, like, digging in and learning lore, no matter how stupid and overcomplicated it is. And, like, there are series that I know have lore that's too complicated, but I don't want to learn it, because, like, Kingdom Hearts would be the big one. And it's just like, who the fuck cares? This is not for me. This is for... There's a group of people that Kingdom Hearts is for, and I'm just not in it.
I gave a real shit about Kingdom Hearts once upon a time. And it's not that I thought the series turned to crap or anything. It's just that when you start giving me 30 dozen Game Boy Advance spin-offs...
Yeah, and...
I start losing patience.
I watched like a joke video by Video Game Donkey the other day where he summarizes the plot of all the Kingdom Hearts games. And it's like 95% the truth and like 5% jokes. And apparently, like, by this point in that game's lore, there are like 5 different versions of Sora. Why? Like, I don't even care about the what anymore. I want to know the why. Why did the writers write this?
For me, it's not that I find it hard or anything. It's just that I have never been able to give much of a crap about Resident Evil. I kind of feel like there's only so many ways you can take a zombie infection plot.
Yeah, like, Resident Evil is not complex. It's just that
it's convoluted.
Some of the games are bad, so you disconnect.
I know at some point, Part 4 was not related to the rest of them. That was a whole different strain of virus.
Yeah, like, so pretty much after 2 and 3, where Raccoon City has been nuked off the map, that's kind of the end of Umbrella as the villain. And then it's always like people who were on the board of directors for Umbrella who have started new companies, like
Oh boy.
Tricell. And I sort of feel like it's gone on a little too long. And I think the biggest sign when Resident Evil has gone on longer than it's worth it is the fact that Albert Wesker's now dead. I think he was the only really good villain, and killing him off should have been the end of the series.
All right. I'm going to give another shout out to actually the Dark Souls universe. Now, that also ties in with my really, really wanting to play more Dark Souls than the first one. That's a good example, I think, of how you really integrate lore into your world. Dark Souls has a way of, like, going show, but don't really tell much. And you have to go out of your way as you're exploring the game to find things and put notes together. You need to check the wiki for complete details.
With a few exceptions, there kind of aren't cutscenes in Dark Souls games. And it's all very much like, talk to a dying guy who's lying on the side of the road and listen to his story of how he got here and why he's dying. And it turns out to be connected to other things. Or pick up a famous artifact weapon and read its biography in your menu and learn stuff about the world from that. And that's an interesting way to go about it. But I have joked some in the Discord that I'm not really a fan of Dark Souls. I don't like the art style, and I'm not really good enough at video games to get very far in FromSoft games. So it's another thing where it's like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like, I'm sure that, you know, there is a fan base for this, obviously, who likes it very much. It's just not for me. I can think of, I think, one franchise where I would like to get into it, and it's not that the lore is too complicated, it's just that there's too much and I don't have the time. And that is Gundam. Because I do like giant robots.
Who don't?
You dig giant robots. I dig giant robots. Chicks dig giant robots. But yeah, I don't have enough free time to watch that much anime. That's all it is.
As a general rule, I don't allow myself to watch old shows that have gone on for 200 plus episodes. I don't have that kind of time or dedication. So I will never get into Bleach, I will never get into Naruto, and I will sure as fuck never get into One Piece because Monkey D. Luffy's face gives me nightmares. You put that thing on the Majora's Mask moon, and I'm gonna wet myself if I see it in the sky.
They're very similar. Oh, I can think of a couple other things. Okay, there was like several years ago, I dropped off of following IDW's Transformers comics, and now I feel like there's too much for me to go back and catch up.
There has been a lot that has happened there since a couple of years ago. Like, did you drop off before or after More Than Meets the Eye started?
I dropped off. I think I got through All Hail Megatron and the Status Quo, where they introduced Spike as like a military guy who was working with Bumblebee on Earth.
I'm so
and stuff.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's been a really long time, man.
Those were the dark ages, man.
That's why I dropped off, yeah.
I could barely get through it. I was this close to dropping everything, and then James Roberts' More Than Meets the Eye started, and John Barber's R.I.D. started, Robots in Disguise, and they just kind of lifted the series out of the whole quagmire it was in. But the problem there is James basically single-handedly added 30,000 different terms and subjects to the lexicon, and he revolutionized all of the IDW backstory. Started going into class warfare and punishment and crime and lobotomies. Like, basically, Shockwave looks the way he does because he was punished for going against the Senate. That's why he has one gun hand and one eye on his head. It's to mark him as a criminal.
Yeah, like, I know little bits of that, and I know, like, about the status quo where Megatron joined Rodimus's ship as, like, an atonement sort of thing, and Starscream and what's the female one who's like her faction was like neutral in the war, and they're like political leaders on Cybertron after the war is finally declared over.
Oh, you're talking about Windblood?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, you basically dropped off about halfway through the whole thing, and then it got really involved from that point on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just feels like too much to ever catch back up.
They're going to be rebooting it starting next year. That might be a good time to hop back on.
Okay. I mean, it's a bummer because I know that some of the stuff that's happened recently towards the end has been really good, and like you and Chrome have talked a lot about it on the Discord, and I kind of wish I could share in that.
Oh man, I could go on for a half an hour about Shockwave and Onyx Prime. I really could. That issue was up there, like that revelation. Not to get too far into things, but
yeah.
It was up there with some of the greatest comic reveals I've ever seen. It was beautiful.
I will also say, just before we finish up on this question, is that, like, I know Soul Calibur really well, but not so much 4 and 5, just because I stopped caring.
I was going to mention Soul Calibur, but I felt that Dark Souls and Resident Evil were my two barriers I really, really couldn't get into. I could get into Soul Calibur, and I was briefly after, like, 2 I stopped caring too. The mythology itself is pretty fun and interesting and involved, but we just kind of parted ways, me and Soul Calibur. Nothing against it, but...
I feel like, for me, it was the moment that Siegfried became the main hero, and he got, like, that giant crystal sword version of Soul Calibur. I don't like Siegfried that much, and I wish that, like, Killig and Xianghua were still the main characters.
They actually made him the main character?
Yeah.
Did they really do that?
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah, like, in their minds, it was supposed to be, like, a big redemption arc, because Nightmare had become its own entity for him to fight physically, and I get what they're going for, and I just don't care. Like, I don't like Siegfried.
He was only interesting to me as an alternate costume in the short time I was with the series.
Yeah.
Quick shoutouts. I wish I could unlearn most of what I've learned about Zelda lore and Mega Man lore outside of the Standard and X. I love the Mega Man Legends series, but when it comes to, like, NT Warrior and all that stuff, I can't care. I can't. So, Christmas Milk. Were the two Sub-Zeros close as brothers, or were they distant OG timeline-wise?
We've never, like, seen them together outside of, like, as enemies, as Sub-Zero and Noob Saibot. So, I'm inclined to think that there was a distance between them when they were both in the Lin Kuei. I think it was, like, the older Sub-Zero, Bihan, was very much, a loner, and very emotionally closed off and hard to deal with as a person. Like, he was basically an asshole, like, very selfish. And I think Kuai Liang wanted there to be a closer relationship between the two of them, and probably in his head romanticizes his relationship with his brother and thinks they were close. But clearly Bihan doesn't think very much of Kuai Liang.
That's pretty much the way I've always looked at it, too. I think he sees him as weak, soft. But clearly Kuai Liang still gives enough of a shit to keep on going out there and trying to save him. One of the things I do remember is that he makes a point of saying once they've got Noob beaten, is that he's my brother, I have to do this, I have to save him.
Yeah, that's kind of Kuai Liang's thing. That's why I like him so much, is that he's this character who started out as, like, I work for an assassin clan and I don't really like it. And then he becomes one of the most, like, optimistic and positive hero figures in the franchise. And, like, he's always giving people second chances and always believing the best in everyone and always thinking, I can save them and they won't betray me. Like, he thinks that Frost is a better person than she is. He has no problem trusting Serena, even though she's a demon. And, you know, he wants to save Smoke from being a robot. He wants to save his brother from being Noob Saibot.
That probably is his biggest weakness. He wants to save everyone.
Yeah. And I also think, like, it's his most endearing quality. Because I like a hero. I'm also a big Liu Kang fan. We had a whole episode where I was very upset that he's a dead villain these days.
Sorry.
I like a good guy.
It's refreshing, you know?
Big part of the reason I hate Injustice.
I love Superman, but I do find Injustice Superman as interesting as the regular.
I mean, I can't say he's not interesting. He is interesting, and they have, I think, like in the moments like Injustice 2 where him and Batman have to work together to fight Brainiac. I think there's an interesting dynamic there. We could get past the grim and gritty depictions of the DC universe because they're bleeding into other media, and it's becoming what people think DC is all about, and that's not right.
They tried. I remember, like, some point after Infinite Crisis, Selina had a kid, and then Batman bought her a teddy bear. But 2 months later, he was back to being a dick.
Yeah.
They can't ungrim themselves. It's proving
It's mostly just because Dan DiDio, the editor-in-chief of DC, really, really likes it gritty.
Yet he's a huge fan of the Silver Age.
Yeah, but like, if you listen to him talk about, like, anytime he talks about how he wants the editors to run the Teen Titans books, he likes it when they kill a bunch of them off for shock. Like, every run of Teen Titans since Jeff Johns has been, like, just a murder fest. It's just terrible.
So, Heather Chandler's next question?
She asks, I wonder if Tanya knows that Rain planned to betray Melina. And Heather's opinion is that she wasn't in on it. I think that Tanya was probably totally in on it. Like, I can understand, especially because the Melina-Tanya relationship is kind of the MK universe's only current representation of a lesbian relationship. I can see why somebody would want to see that be, like, genuinely romantic and believe that they had real feelings for each other. And I think Melina's feelings were probably real, although they were mostly lust. I think Tanya just straight up uses people. I don't know that she's capable. Like, she might be a clinical sociopath.
I'd strike might be from that statement. I don't think Tanya has friends.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a single person throughout the entirety of the MK universe that she actually displays real affection and loyalty towards. Tanya lives for Tanya.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I can imagine a depiction where we get deeper into who Tanya is as a person, and we could actually see her care about somebody. But I don't think that happened in MKX.
I kind of think Tanya's got a seriously screwed up background story, which is waiting to be told.
I always thought it was fairly simple. Like, if the Tanya that you're depicting is just straight out of MK4, I think there's a very obvious reason that she is the way she is, because we don't know much about her. What we do know is that she grew up in the Edenian Rebellion in Outworld. She never worked for Shao Kahn. She was always, like, with the Resistance. And when Kitana and Sindel freed Edenia at the end of MK3, they made Tanya's father an ambassador. Because I don't know if he was already a member of the royal court 10,000 years ago before Khan came along, or if it was just because he was an important leader in the Resistance. But whatever he was noble enough to be, like, in the royal court, and so Tanya is the daughter of a noble. And what I think is that part of it is just raw jealousy, just like, yes, I have some power in the court, but it's very minor. I would love to be in charge. And part of it, I think, is, imagine growing up in the Resistance. 10,000 years of history where Kitana is an assassin who kills your people for Shao Kahn. In everybody's mind, she is the daughter of the Emperor of Outworld. And then one day she turns around and goes, "Now, I was faking for a really long time. I'm actually with you guys." And they make her princess, and they put her and Sindel on the throne. How would you feel knowing that your princess spent most of her life killing your people?
Fair point.
So I think Tanya has a legitimate reason to hate Kitana, and that's what most of her motivation was in MK4. This timeline's Tanya, I think, is just straight up figuring nobody's left to rule Edenia, so when we bring it back, of course it's going to be me.
Now, what do you think happened to her dad?
I don't know. I think in the new timeline, he might not even exist. Like, he might have died off screen a long time ago. Her backstory could be completely different because it is a reboot, and they're free to do that if they want, especially because they probably don't remember her MK4 bio.
Not like it's not out there to see at any given point in time.
Yeah, but they don't research things. You know, they don't. Like, all you have to do to know anything is to go to MK Warehouse, and they just don't.
A life without friends, 10,000-year-long life, is a hard thing, I would imagine. I find it difficult to believe that she could become a sociopath just because of one person. I think that she lost her entire family.
That's possible.
And had a very, very hard life during the rebellion.
It's also possible that she lost her family directly to Kitana, because if you're Edenia nobles, then you're high-ranking in the Resistance, and those are the high-priority targets an assassin would be sent after.
I kind of tend to think that Tanya has lived much of her life fending for herself, and kind of doing whatever a survivor needs to do to get by. Growing up an assassin, murder...
She's definitely, in Deception, they push the idea that she considers herself a survivor, someone who will do whatever it takes to make it.
And I think that there's specific reasons for that. Like I said, screwed up backstory.
Yeah.
Next question.
Why did Movado attack Cabal in Deadly Alliance? I understand his main motive was to take out Black Dragons, but Cabal was already long gone at that point, and thus not a prime target compared to guys like Tremor and Taja. So my answer to that is fairly simple. I think, in the minds of the Red Dragon clan, once a Black Dragon, always a Black Dragon. And
that's all there is to it.
Movado's job is to erase the Black Dragons from history, because the fact that they exist is an insult to the Red Dragons. Because there's this whole backstory about how 100 years ago, the Black Dragon gang was formed by a bunch of people who were in the Red Dragon clan and decided it was too strict and they didn't like it, so they were going to start their own clan with booze and hookers.
It's essentially the Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei. The source does not like the apple falling off of the tree.
With the Lin Kuei, it's specifically this thing of, you're going to take our fighting style and you're going to go teach it to other people. You're going to steal from us what we gave you. With the Red Dragons and the Black Dragons, I feel like it's like, you're mocking us. We pride ourselves in discipline, and you're over here in the slums getting dirty with and just like drinking and whoring and being pocket fucking pickers. You're better than this. We're better than this. And you, by doing this, wearing our logo, is an insult. So Movado is totally like, I'm going to kill all of these people. I'm going to make it so nobody remembers they were ever born. No one will know that this happened, and our reputation will be clean. And that's why he goes after Cabal, even though Cabal is not a Black Dragon anymore.
This is a guy who lives his entire life and his clan's life off the books. The Red Dragon are that secretive. There's no real public records of them, so to speak. They're not well known as criminals and thugs like the Black Dragon are. But it's not enough for them to exist. Nothing has to exist.
Yeah.
There can't be any trace of them.
They have to be wiped from the pages of history.
Egyptian style.
And I think, like, so that's definitely how the Red Dragons in general feel about the Black Dragons. But I think for Movado in particular, as a character who has almost no personality, I think the fact that he's got, like, that Spanish conquistador armor, and the fact that he's got, like, this little bit of story to him, it sort of paints a picture in my head of someone who's like a Knight Templar. Like, he's in the Crusades. This is a holy war to him. That's how serious he takes it.
It's all he's got to go on.
Yeah.
So, card to the low. In MKX, instead of having the combat kids be protagonist, what 4 characters would you have preferred to be protagonists? He would have chosen Liu Kang, Kitana, Serena, and Sub-Zero.
So if we were doing MKX different so that classic characters were the main, I would have made a more straight-up remake of MK4. My main characters would be, Scorpion and Sub-Zero would be the main characters in terms of fighting Quan Chi. And in terms of fighting Shinnok, it would be Raiden. But also, like, Liu Kang and Kai would have a big hand in helping Raiden. So I guess that's my answer.
I'd keep Scorpion roughly the same, so he'd be one of my 4. Assuming the Combat Kids didn't exist at all, I would say Scorpion, Johnny Cage, probably Sub-2, and...
I think Sub-Zero deserves it.
I mean,
Scorpion is the most loud about how Quan Chi has wronged him. But I think Quan Chi has wronged Sub-Zero just as much, if you consider how much he has, like, manipulated his and his brother's lives.
You know what? I'd say the 2 ninjas, I would still keep Liu and Kitana dead, assuming that MK9 happened the way it did. I would say Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage, and, wait for it, Fujin. Because I'd have Raiden's role be entirely different than it was in MKX. Not that I disliked how they used him, but I always felt that there should have been more of a point in that he had to answer for a lot of what he screwed up.
That's true. Like, if we're doing it as a sequel to 9, I would have painted Raiden as more being punished by the Elder Gods at some point. So that, like, Fujin would have a more prominent role, yeah.
If not punished by the Elder Gods, I would have had him also at least voluntarily give up his position and live off in exile or something. Like, given up his powers, become immortal again, and fucked off in shame.
That would be a good way to go, because it would, like, if he was voluntarily expressing contrition, it would make him look like less of an asshole, but for sure, yeah.
It always bugged me that, like, the only thing he came from MK9 was an ongoing sense of guilt. But he kept his job.
I mean, he did fuck up a lot of things.
He's like the store manager who's just driven the chain into bankruptcy, but somehow he's still employed.
It really, like, I mean, they're pushing much too hard the idea that the Elder Gods don't give a shit in this timeline.
Yeah. So MKT Leon, do you think when all is said and done that this trilogy may be as controversial among the fanbase as the 3D era trilogy was?
I think judging by how people react to MKX now, just a few years after the release, my answer to that would be yes. There are definitely people who are like, MKX is one of the best. And there are definitely people who are like, MKX is worse than 9, MKX is like this and this and this. And I mean, the truth, as with all things, lies somewhere in the middle. Because there are people who are like, hey, I liked the 3D era games, and then there are a bunch of people who are like, that was the Dark Ages, and it's opinions. The answer is somewhere in the middle. Nothing is ever perfect, but it's also not as shitty as you say it is usually. So yeah, I think they will be remembered mixed, probably leaning more towards fondly than not, but somewhat mixed.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say not at all. Because what the MK fanbase is has definitely changed over time, and it has incorporated a lot of people who are deep into the fighting game aspect of it, and the tech, and professional competitions and tournaments. So the fanbase isn't us 40 weirdos on MK Online discussing lore anymore. I think that going forward, X, 9, and whatever 11 turns out to be, are going to be remembered as the ones that put MK back on the right path with a certain amount of flaws.
I think 9 will be remembered that way, even though, like, story-wise it doesn't deserve it, but as a game, like as a video game, it definitely does.
Yeah.
But I think there are people who complain somewhat louder than it deserves about X, and I think they're not uncommon.
X wasn't perfect. 9 is generally agreed upon to be the better overall game in most respects. But it was still a fine game.
Yeah, no, I actually, I love playing 9. I would go back to 9 any day.
Same. Should we call that it for the night? We've still got a few more questions.
We've gone through quite a few questions. And, yeah. I mean, if we do all of them, and then we do Scorpion really soon, we might not have stocked back up.
Alright, so now is a good time to hop into our Discord channel and toss us more questions on the Lost Questions chat area, room, thing. See, thing is, I just said channel. I don't want to say a channel inside a channel. That sounds wrong.
Yeah. Oh, I'm something of a channel myself. Back home.
Back home. How lucky for them. Back home. Alright guys, that's it for the night. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sticking with us during this dry spell of ours as we all wait for the hopefully inevitable reveal of MK11 at some point soon. We'll see you before the year is up to be covered in scorpions. Razor, anything to add?
Just this. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun
Okay, so seriously, like, why hasn't this been covered by our resident musician yet?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Like, get on this, Django. Get on it.
Fucking do it already. What are you doing with your life?
Just do it! Stop dreaming it and do it!
Don't let my memes be dreams.
Oh, Christ. Imagine Goro doing the Shia LaBeouf thing with all 4 arms right now. That's what I want to be your last mental image going off of this podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.